Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
All right, welcome in, man. It is the Rise to Grind Morning Show. It's Monday morning, April 6th, and we're going to be talking about your Detroit Lions today. The top 53 currently on the roster. I think we need to discuss this a little bit. For some reason, I think we have a lot of fans that believe that every single draft pick that the Lions have will be on this roster. And considering late draft picks or late rounds, the Lions should absolutely run away from certain players or not select certain players because they're projects. And so we're going to talk about that this morning. Where does the top 53 line up today? Who's going to make it currently, right? It's paper tiger season, so we're talking about, what's on paper right now. And then how do the draft picks fit? Who should we bring in? What does the current top 50 talk about? I have 3 new articles that dropped since yesterday on the top 36 that will be running this week, and we'll have videos to follow shortly. So good morning. Welcome into the Rise Grind Morning Show. Let's get rolling. Be right back.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
All right, Eric. Good morning, man. How are you today?
I'd be doing fantastic if it wasn't snowing outside.
Snow? Well, I don't even know what that is anymore.
Big, giant, lazy flakes coming down today, all piling up.
Well, that's your weather report from the Great White North. No snow down here, man. No snow. You'll see when you get down here in a couple of days. No snow down here.
Yeah.
Now I will say this: my daffodils are all hung like upside down because it's a little cold at night.
Yeah.
But outside of that, yeah, nothing popping. Nothing popping but rain. A lot of rain. But I want to talk about what's raining inside Allen Park right now with the top 53. I also want to discuss our draft picks. Mm-hmm. Lions got a lot of day 3 picks, or they have a lot of day 3 picks. How does that help or hurt the Lions? What's the draft strategy, for the Lions this year? What are the most important positions? I think a lot of Lions fans, including I think both of us, would say that offensive tackle's a priority. Whether it's right or left, we don't know. I think it could be either at this point. And then, of course, there's the edge position that everyone talks about. I'm going to give you a wild take about that in just a few moments. What's next? Like, what after those 2 positions make the most sense? And when you look at the draft picks that the Lions have, the draft order, I'm kind of sitting back here looking at it like we're in trouble. I don't know how you feel about this draft, Eric, but I'll just be straight up. It's like hot early, and a lot of drafts aren't like this. It's hot early, and then it does a complete nosedive. And there's a ton of depth. There's a ton of depth in this class. And I've been saying this for 2 months. And it seems like now, over the last week, you're starting to hear that more and more throughout the league sources, all the other channels out there, all of the other analysts, the NFL analysts. They're starting to recognize and say the same thing. I noticed it 2 months ago that this draft kind of sucks. But you know who's going to get blamed? Who do you think is going to get blamed for this draft sucking so bad?
Brad Holmes.
Brad Holmes. Of course he is. It's his fault that the draft sucks. Just like 24 or 25 or, those years were not the greatest drafts. Like, we don't have, and again, I've been saying this for a while too, we don't have a true blue chip plethora. I should say we don't have a plethora of true blue chip left tackles in this draft. So does it even make sense if the true blue chips are gone before 17 to take one? Probably not, right? And then fans are going to be upset that we didn't take one at 17. but there might be a better player there, right? There might be a better opportunity. Could be defense, which I don't think anyone's going to be that mad if it's defense, but then again, they could be. So let's talk about it, man. I guess let me ask you the first question is, how do you feel about this draft? You've been digging in a little bit more over the last week or so. So how do you feel it's shaping out right now?
So I haven't sat down and put like first round grades on everybody yet to see how many I think are in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to do it off the top of my head, I'd probably say 14 or 15. So there's a big lump of these guys that go into like a second, third round category, day 2 picks, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be the meat and potatoes of this draft is going to be day 2, because there's a lot of those dudes, and those guys might actually flow over into day 3, where you have a lot of these guys that are a second round, third round talent. You're going to get a lot of those guys in the third and fourth round. And I just think that the Lions are going to find more pieces in this draft that could be capable backups versus quality starters. And what do we need in this draft? We probably need 3 starters to come out of this draft.
Yeah, that's been my number for a minute. Like, I think three would be great. I think 2 is feasible. But then again, I'm going to throw it back in Brad Holmes' lap, and he needs to find a diamond in the rough. This is a draft that he has to hit at least one pick that nobody is considering right now. And that's how he's always set himself apart, is that he's been able to find those diamonds in the rough. Whether you want to call Amon-Ra St. Brown a diamond in the rough or not, I think a lot of teams fail to recognize something that I've always held more. I guess I put certain receivers at in a different category when they run routes clean, when they're crisp at the snap, when they know where to be and they're there on time, when they work back to the football, when they catch with hands. And so when you look at players like Amon-Ra St. Brown that does all of those things, sure, his speed was a little bit lacking, but the one thing that he can do on his decel is then turn and face and be right in the right position immediately. Whereas y'all, the speed guys that maybe don't have the crispest route running, Jameson Williams, they don't do that. And it takes them a little bit of time to nurture their route running and get better. So when I see players like Amon-Ra St. Brown, and there's a couple in this draft that, yeah, they don't have all the speed in the world, but they do everything else right. And when you do everything else right, you're going to make a lot of plays. And a lot of scouts, it feels like they've devalued those players. But since the Amon-Ra St. Brown draft, right, since 2021, there's been a little bit of a change, a little evolution. You're starting to see where maybe it's not all speed anymore. And how long have I been saying that about smart players versus fast players? Brian Branch is another one. Brian Branch, what does he run? A 4.56 40? You wouldn't expect that a team would want to take a safety or a corner, right, that runs that kind of speed. But if they're smart, right, and they know the game of football and they have high football IQ, it separates them. It puts them in a total different stratosphere of a player from day one. High floor versus, a low ceiling, or a high ceiling player, if you will. So this draft has some of those. Has a lot of them, actually. But from a perspective of innate ability, the true blue chip, guys that can start on day one into the second and third round, there's just not a lot of them. And so I'm going to put out the warning, right, the PSA, that Brad Holmes isn't responsible for that. What he's responsible for is finding the absolute best player he can that fits the team dynamic, what they need. Whether he says he drafts for need or not, it doesn't matter. That's what he's responsible for. And not every draft is going to give you that. And I'll segue into this, and then I want to jump right into this 53. What that means is not every late day 3 pick or even any of the day 3 picks could make the roster, especially when you have a roster that's loaded with about 18 to 20 core players that are starters at a high level on this team. And I guess I don't know about you, but I kind of get sick of seeing the things online, you know, on social media, especially yesterday. I responded to one where, you know, they say, you know, players like Makai Wingo never play, or, you know, Levi Onwuzurike always injured. And it's like, okay, you just named like 5 or 6 players, you know, Ennis Rakestraw or whomever, right, that haven't played, or Broderick Martin was a bust. And it's like, that's cool. Out of 36 players, you just named the only 6 that didn't pan out. When you go look at the Patriots, they've lost 12 fourth-round picks in 5 years. So you tell me that every day 3 pick or every third-round pick is supposed to play at a high level, start. It doesn't work that way. Learn football. I've been saying it for 2 years. Learn it. Learn how it functions. Learn how rosters function. Learn that every player in the draft is not a good player, right? They're just the best of the crop. That's all it is. You know, sometimes you plant 500 seeds in your crop and 20% of them don't work out. 30% of them yield, you know, a small amount, and maybe more than half of them, right, don't even germinate. So it's the same thing in the draft, man. You have great players, good players, blue chips, and then, a lot of development. So, Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I got a question for you. So we talked before about how COVID really affected college players for a couple of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, think about this. While those same players were playing in college and having to deal with COVID, these players coming out now were dealing with that in high school. So just think about how high schools were decimated, their football programs, by COVID, and how they had to put off games. And a lot of players probably did not play and waited until they went to college. So the college scouts bringing in the kids to college from high school, the high school scouts, I guess you would say, they had one heck of a hard job pulling these players in. And I'm sure there was a lot of players that just quit playing football over COVID in high school. Just too much of a hassle. So I think now we're getting those players that had the whole COVID issue in high school coming through college and now to the pros. Did that, derail some of their development also in high school, since it did to the college players, during that same time period?
I don't know if I understood your question. Are you saying that did COVID affect the high school players?
Yeah, that are coming out now.
Of course it did. I mean, that's the whole that's the whole basis around this. Like, so in high school you don't get extra eligibility, right? In college you do. So in high school, when these teams weren't playing, they lost a year of development. So it doesn't mean that colleges weren't going to bring these players in. Some of them were just more developed than others, and those players obviously went to the premier high school or premier colleges. But then, as you enter, well, let me wind back. 2022, a lot of it was over, right? So the players that lost time in high school that ended up going to college, call it 22 or 23, they probably had a better developmental plan ahead of them, but they still lost time when they were younger, which means that they're that lack of development, which is their size, it's more physical than anything, but it's also time on the field, and learning the nuances of the offense and defense, whatever, respective position that they're at. And then how do you translate that to the, university level or the college level? Unfortunately, there's some players that didn't end up going where they needed to go, and a lot of players ended up transferring as they ended up getting some of that education, right, on the football field and time on the field, that they would end up transferring and utilizing the portal and taking an extra year or two to develop. So you're getting older players in the draft too. And I think it's multifold. You've got older players because of the whole COVID situation. You have older players just simply because of NIL. And these guys are like, if I'm making $1 million here and NFL wouldn't even pay me $1 million if I was a 6th-round draft pick. Why would I leave?
Do you remember? It was quite a few years ago back. I can't remember the name of the quarterback, but he was 28 years old.
Oh God!
When he came out in the draft, and he got drafted pretty high.
When was this?
Oh, what was his name? I'm pretty sure he was 26 or 28. He was he was like the oldest drafted quarterback. And they made such a big deal of it. And now it seems like a normal thing. All these 25 and 26-year-olds coming out in the draft. And that's how COVID really messed things up.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think that COVID is kind of done with now at this point. I mean, I think last year was probably the final year of that having any effect. Yeah. I think what we see now is the NIL, which is pushing players to be a little bit older. Like I said, if they're making money, good money, playing in college,
why leave?
Where everything is already free because everything is paid for. Their college is paid for, room and board's paid for, and they get a big check. Well, you go to the NFL, now you got to pay for everything, and you're not getting as much if you're a day 3 pick or even a late day 2 pick. I think the cutoff, honestly, like towards the end of the first round. I'm sorry, middle of the second round. I'd have to look. It's already close to $4 million on a 4-year deal.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Chris Weineke?
I think so.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Or Brandon Whedon. That was 2012. He was 28 years old.
I'm looking it up right now. Yeah, I think it was Chris Weineke.
That was back in 21.
Yeah, he was 28 years old.
That was 25 years ago.
Yeah, he was 28 years old. But I'm saying that was how rare that was back then.
Brandon Whedon in 2012 was also 28 years old. But
yeah,
you're getting some 25-year-olds now.
It just seems like the 25 and the average age of a kid coming out of the draft is getting older and older and older.
A little bit, man. And I think at specific positions too, you're starting to see older players. All right, so tomorrow, hopefully we get a bunch of people in tomorrow. I'll have lead NFL scout for SIS will be joining in the afternoon. We're going to be doing an offensive line breakdown. It's already up. The thumb is already up. So make sure you share it around. SIS does a wonderful job. So Mr. Dean's going to be joining us, and we're going to break it down, man. We're going to break down, or he's going to break down his thoughts on this offensive line class. And of course, I've got some questions for him. Who's best to the Lions and why? Right? Who's best to the Lions and why? And can you find somebody in the second round, or if Brad can move up into the second round, does it even make sense to draft an offensive lineman in the first round? It may not. You may not. So let's get right into this 53, and let's start talking about it. We'll do that right when we get back. Quick break. Be right back. Okay, so we're going to be talking the Detroit Lions roster currently. Now, all the depth charts out there are not great. So I'm going to try to do this by hand, and then I think tonight I'll have some time. I'll create a depth chart for everybody with Excel. I'll turn it into a PDF, and I'll put it out there so people can download it, at least based on what I see right now as what the depth chart should be. You may have a different idea, but this one is mine. So that's what you're getting. Let's start right away. I'm going to just whittle this down the way that Spotrac lets me, and that is with receiver. I'll be at the top of the board here.
Mhm.
So let's go through receivers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 receivers right now. I have a feeling that room is not complete before the 90. We have 68 players currently on the roster, which would mean, let's say it's not going to happen, but you have 9 draft picks. That puts you at 77, which means you still have 13 players, 13 UDFAs or free agents to add to this roster. You think we're in a good position?
I'm fine with that.
I mean, I don't know if we've ever brought in 13 UDFAs. This might be the most we've ever brought in if it happens to go that way, especially if we don't have 9 draft picks, which I'm not expecting. So 68 rostered currently, and out of the wide receiver room, we have 8. We need to build a top 53. Now, based on last year's, let's look up the Lions 53-man roster from last year. I'll look it up.
Okay.
That way I'll tell you exactly how many we had. I should have just pulled up my spreadsheet because I have it there. But I'm not. We'll look it up. The final 53-man roster, we'll go to Tim 20-man's breakdown. And I want to say it was actually 50 last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't it 50 that we started with?
Yep. We had a couple extra spots.
So we had 6 receivers. You think we keep 6 this year? Well, I guess you're about to tell me.
Yeah,
Let's start with the receivers, Eric. Out of these 8 receivers, Jackson Meeks, Malik Cunningham, Dominic Lovett, Tom Kennedy, Greg Dortch, Isaac Tesla, Jamison Williams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I want you to go from top to bottom. I don't care if they're slot, outside, X. Okay. I just top to bottom. Who's your number 1 to your whatever number, however many you think that we're keeping on the roster?
Well, I think it's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Isaac Tesla, Greg Dortch, and then you have to pick 2 from the remaining ones. And I think that is going to end up being Jackson Meeks and Tom Kennedy.
You think Kennedy makes the roster this year?
For right now, yes. Over Dominic Lovett or Malik Cunningham, yes.
Wow.
Just with what we have.
Okay.
I think they
So you're sticking with 6?
Yeah, with 6 right now.
Okay. All right. So my receiver room, obviously it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jamison Williams to be traded. Just kidding. Jamison Williams is on the roster for now. I don't know. There's been some grumblings though, Eric. I mean, whether it's a potential trade or apparently there's leaked information somewhere that the Lions are drafting a Caden Proctor. Come on.
Listen, J-Mo is never going to forgive you.
That's all right. So James Williams, Isaac Tesla.
You're in J-Mo purgatory.
That's all right. Isaac Tesla at number 3. And again, this is just based on what we have now. Dortch, I would agree with that. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put Meeks.
And I like that you picked Meeks first over the other 3, just like I did.
Well, Meeks made the roster last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
Or he was first to make the practice squad, I think.
Yeah.
He was first to make the practice squad. And that's it.
You're going with 5.
Yep. Out of this roster, I'm going with 5 right now. The others are practice squad eligible. So for my PS, it would be Lovett. Now, I'm hoping Lovett has a better year this year. I mean, I thought he was going to make the roster last year. Kennedy definitely will be on the practice. There's no reason to put him on the roster. He always comes back to the practice squad.
Yeah, and that might be the same for my list as well. Once we get
you already picked your list.
Cunningham. No, I'm saying once we get to where I have to cut someone to make room on the roster.
Yeah, I got you. All right, next up, running backs. Which, by the way, the Lions did bring Kai Robichaud back. Or did I miss that he was even on the roster this whole time?
He was injured in training camp, so I'm guessing he was just on the on the list the whole time.
I'm thinking he probably was too, but I don't really remember.
Yeah, because he went out with I want to say a knee in training camp.
I don't remember.
Yeah, we were there when he got hurt.
He might have been on an injury settlement or something.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure. Honestly, I haven't spent 2 minutes looking it up. So running backs, I know it's a big fail by me, but anyway, we had 4 on the roster last year. We had Gibbs, Montgomery, Reynolds, and Vaki. And I said we were going to go from top to bottom, but let me skip to running backs. So this year we have Jabari Small, Jacob Sailors, Kai Robichaud, Sione Vaki, Isaiah Pacheco, Jahmyr Gibbs. How many are you keeping, and who are they?
4, and I'm going with Gibbs, Pacheco, Vaki, and Jacob Sailors. And this is barring a draft pick with Sailors.
You know, I really like Sailors. You know, the funny thing is, when you look at his output last year and what he was able to do, provide a spark in the return game, I thought, man, how did we miss this guy? Where has he been? He was one of the UFL leading rushers, I think, for the year prior, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, for the Battlehawks.
And yeah, he provided the spark that we needed. So I can't imagine that he doesn't get the biggest opportunity this year to prove himself to actually make the roster. I think kind of what you said, if the Lions do, draft somebody, which I do believe is a potential here, that could ruin everything. And that's why you might have to go lighter at a different position. I can't imagine the Lions would keep 5 running backs.
Mm-mm.
But if you're thinking that Jahmyr Gibbs is more of a receiver this year, which they're considering to put him at, a lot more receiver options.
But they've said that every year.
This could be different with Petzing. Then I think it could open up the window to have another running back. Not saying that Gibbs is going to go to the wide receiver room or anything. I'm just saying that it could open the window to have another running back. And it all depends, too. Like, if they're a vet and they can go to the practice squad and be protected on the vet squad, then it is what it is. But I don't think we have any vets outside of Pacheco and Gibbs. So that doesn't work. It really doesn't work. All right, so for me, I'm going to keep 4-2. I think that's kind of what the Lions have been doing. Obviously Gibbs, obviously Pacheco. Now, I would say that if the Lions do draft somebody, that's going to put the heat on Pacheco versus anybody else. I really liked Kai Robichaud when he was doing his thing, but he's got a long way to go. Vaki and Sailors. So I've got the same.
Yeah.
And then obviously let us know in the comments below in the chat right now, who are your top 4? Who are your top 4? Who are your top 4 running backs?
And you were talking about Jacob Sailors being in the UFL last year. If you guys have not been watching the UFL, you're missing out. It's week 2 right now. Last night's game was awesome. Came down to a last-second field goal. The guy had to kick 5 field goals in a torrential downpour in Houston last night.
Really?
Yeah, the Gamblers beat the Birmingham Stallions 22-19, and it was a fantastic game.
Soli Dio Gloria. Man, that is a long, long name. Vaki has been a waste, in my opinion. No availability. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. How about I put this out there? Hold on. Ready? Oh, actually, I don't want to do it on that screen. Let me do it on a different screen.
Oh, while you're doing that, you're looking up Vaki.
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
I'm looking up something else.
Okay.
But I'm not going to be able to find it quickly.
Gotcha.
I know for a fact that when you go back and look at every year in the NFL, at least 6 to 9 starting running backs do not finish the season. 6 to 9. In multiple years, those same running backs are injured. Running back is just an injury prone type of position. I mean, you're banging away on every play. It's not like receiver where you're running around and yeah, you might block somebody downfield, but running back, you're going through the gauntlet, man. You're getting your head kicked in every time you touch the football or not. So it's not that Vaki has not been available. He battled a couple of injuries, but you can't tell me that there's a better special teamer, because that's what he's brought in to do, is play special teams. He's not a running back for the Lions right now. He's a special teamer. And you have three different teams on every team. You have offense, you have defense, and then you have special teams. And that's what Vaki is. And when he's on the field, you can't tell me that there's a better special teamer at his position. He's on every play. He's in on every play. So he's not been a waste. And every player goes through something. Every player goes through injuries. I mean, was Patrick Mahomes a waste because he was injured last year?
He might be injured this year.
Right.
And listen, I just looked something up.
Mm-hmm.
Approximately 44% of NFL players miss at least one game due to injury per season, with an average injured starter missing about 3.1 games per season. So that means your average player misses about 3.1 games per season if they get injured.
So let me correct something. I'm just going to call you solely. The Vaki issue.
Yep.
It's not that he needs to take reps at running back, but he has taken reps at running back in every preseason. And he's taken some reps in games. And every time he's touched the ball, he's going for 6+ yards a carry.
Oh, yeah. Go watch Vaki preseason tape.
So he has taken plenty of reps. And if you've ever been to a practice, he takes plenty of reps. But when you have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, why would he need to take reps? Or when you have Pacheco and Gibbs, why would he need to take reps? He's third team. He'll take reps with the third team. That's what he's here for. Not every player. This is exactly what I was saying earlier. Not every player drafted in the third round, fourth round, fifth round is going to play or play at a high level or start or even play in a lot of games or even have a lot of snaps. Roster construction, I don't know why it's mystified Lions fans, but for some reason, every draft pick must start. Every draft pick must play all the reps or it's a waste or it's a bad pick.
Mm-hmm.
Newsflash, there's only 11 players on the field at one time. Not every player is going to play. Some players are strictly brought in just for rotation. Not every player is drafted to be a starter. Y'all need to understand that. That's how teams construct their roster. You don't draft every player to be a starter. Why? Because they don't exist. There's not 260 players in this draft that can all start. There's about 20. That's it. 20 high-level starters. And then beyond that, you've got a good 30, 40 very solid rotational players. And then beyond that, you have guys that can help in practice and also rotate that are going to need some development. Every player after the second round is always high development. First round, slight development, depending on their position. Second round, still a lot of development, but they should be able to play a little bit more. Third round and beyond, those are all developmental guys. Fifth round and beyond, those are practice squad players on most teams. So that needs to be understood, and I'll break that down in a video. All right, next up, let's do receivers.
We already did.
I'm sorry, not receivers, tight ends.
Tight ends. I'm going to go with Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, and Tyler Conklin. The other guys can go on the practice squad.
You got
Thomas
Laporta,
Gordon, Zach Horton,
right?
and Conklin.
And Conklin?
Yep. And then I'm going to insert a la draft pick another one here somewhere.
So you're going with 4?
Eventually, but for right now, we're going with 3.
Okay. So tight ends, last year they had 3 on the starting roster.
Mm-hmm. And I think this year we're going to go with 4. We're not going to get caught with our pants down again.
Well, wear a belt.
Well, I'm going to get Sadiq in the first round, and I'm
Oh,
not going to have
boy.
to worry about it.
There you go.
Dude, when I put out
That's
my
a
very
big
first
time
mock
play.
draft, when I put out my very first mock draft and I had Kenyon Sadiq going to the Lions, people lost their friggin' minds.
Mhm.
They'd lost their minds. And that was right after I got back from the combine. I fell in love with the kid. I think he's amazing. I think he's going to be a one-of-one special talent at the tight end position. Now, he may not put up Sam Laporta numbers year 1 or, Brock Bowers numbers year 1. But, man, that kid's going to be a touchdown machine.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Stop lying.
Nah, he's going to be the real deal.
All right.
He's not going to be, what's his name for the Atlanta Falcons, Kyle Pitts. I don't think he's going to be a Kyle Pitts. This kid.
Kyle Pitts
he's
is
gotta
really
go.
good. He just, when you're on a shit team, it's kind of tough. But
Well, Kyle Pitts had one game last year where he had 3 touchdowns. He had 5 touchdowns in 2 games. He had 5 touchdowns in an entire season.
mhm.
So he can do it. It's just
Look,
he
he needs
hasn't put it all together.
consistency at the coaching position. He needs
Yeah.
consistency at the quarterback position. He's not operating with a full deck either. I think that Kyle Pitts on a different team is a better story, but we're probably never going to see it. So I got the same 3 for tight end: Laporta, Wright, Conklin, and I'm also in the same boat that tight end draft is possible and running back draft is possible. Even wide receiver draft is possible. I know that sounds crazy, but your goal is to upgrade every positional group in the draft. And this is a draft that has a lot of receivers. So I'm expecting another receiver potentially, depending on what happens. We'll see. We'll just go right down the list with this one. But I'm going to do safeties because tackles and offensive line, they're kind of all jumbled up in here. But let's do safeties, starting with Chuck Clark. Let me open up a new defensive sheet here.
Well, of course, I'm going to start with Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. And then I think my backups are going to be Christian Izzian and Chuck Clark. I just don't know enough about Dan Jackson, Lawrence Strickland, and Thomas Harper. They've been fill-ins, but they have not shown me anything where they deserve to be a starter or an immediate backup. So right now I'm going to go with my top 4 of Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Chuck Clark, and Christian Izzian. And then I do believe we will pull in a safety, possibly Bud Clark or someone like that in the draft. Wouldn't it be cool to have Clark and Clark back there?
Hold on, buddy. 1, 2. What am I missing here? The Lions only had that's really odd. I don't know how I didn't notice this. But last year, defensive backs, this is Tim Twentyman's breakdown, right? This is probably why we only had 50 on the roster. 8 defensive backs overall. You had DJ Reed, Terry and Arnold, Amik Robertson, Rock Ya-Sin. Those are your 4 main corners.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, Khalil Dorsey, and Avonte Maddox, which Avonte Maddox, if I remember correctly, he kind of had that duality, that versatility, but it was not at the free safety position or strong safety position. I think it was more of like the nickel safety position. I think that when he went back at safety last year, that might have been his first real, and I could be totally wrong here, but I remembered hearing something that like it was his first real opportunity to play that position.
Mm-hmm. Now Dorsey's not even on the roster according to this.
I think he's gone.
Unless he's under corner. I don't see him there either. Oh, there he is. He's still here. Khalil Dorsey, cornerback.
Well, yeah, so Khalil Dorsey is also a corner, but I want to say they put him at safety.
Yeah, safety for a while. They did. And then he
And
got
that was not because they wanted to. I think as they were kind of forced to. And then so it's just kind of weird that if you really look at it, then we had at least five corners and maybe three safeties. And then I believe we added some players later, through free agency and that. But Avonte Maddox, I'm pretty positive it was a nickel corner, and maybe more of that box safety, nickel safety, but more known as a corner, I believe. I could be wrong. So, all right, we have eight total. So if I'm looking at this, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm worried about Kirby, obviously. Brian Branch isn't going to be able to start right now, so I think you did it you kind of did it without putting a couple of players to IR, which I think you need to do.
Yeah.
So I of course Brian Branch, but he's not going to count right now because he's on IR, right? Kirby Joseph, I'm going to put in for now without being on IR, which God, I hope so. Thomas Harper, he's in. Chuck Clark, the grumblings, Eric, are that Chuck Clark was brought in because of the whole Kirby thing.
Fine. You got to have insurance.
No. That there's, like, Kirby's got issues, still. And we don't hear enough, right? You're not going to hear anything. The Lions aren't going to say anything publicly until they have to list him on a injury report.
Well, yeah. Yeah, his knee could be completely done. And
Dan Jackson got injured last year. He didn't do enough, right? Even when he was in. So I don't have him. I don't have him on the roster right now, just because. But if he's healthy and he proves himself, great. But I think guys like Christian Izzian and
wasn't Dan Jackson a really small guy too?
I think he's 6 foot. 6 foot, maybe 200 pounds. I can't remember.
Let's see.
Well, you can look him up though.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. Right
Okay.
now.
I can't remember. So I'm going to go with Brian Branch on AR, Kirby Joseph, hopefully healthy, Thomas Harper, Chuck Clark, and Izzian. So I'm going to go with 4 safeties with Brian Branch on IR, and then that leaves Lauren Strickland on practice squad, Dan Jackson potentially on practice squad. And then I'm going to go to cornerbacks now. Hopefully they didn't list this all funny where we've got nickelbacks or DBs listed. Let me just make sure. Sometimes they do. I got to put that depth chart together today.
Yeah, he's 6'1", 195.
Yeah, so he's not terribly small, man. I mean,
No.
he'll put on some more
pants.
poundage. All right, so the Lions had 8 safeties and corners combined at the 53 last year, or 50, whatever you want to call it. Who do you got for corners?
All right, we're going to go Terry and Arnold. We're going to go Roger McCreary, and we're going to go DJ Reed. That's my 3 corners. And then Rock Yassin, Ennis Rakestraw, how many is that?
That's 5.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Remind me, who are your safeties again? You had BB? Joseph
Kirby, Clark, and Isian.
and Isian. Okay.
So 4 and 5. So I got a total of 9.
Yep, so you have 9. All right, corners for me. Reed, TA. Why am I showing running backs? Reed, TA. Obviously, Yassine. Man, I really like Yassine. I got to get that jersey this year. McCreary, of course. I do expect a DB in the draft. I do expect a safety in the draft. At least for right now. And they could be late guys. They could be late, day 3 guys. Rakestraw. I hope he's healthy. I know he is. He says he is. But I hope he stays healthy. So I'm going to go with 5 right now, which is going to give me a total of 9 as well.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that number will get up to 10, if not 11, by the time that they're done through the draft and as far as what guys actually make the roster. The cool thing about this is guys like McCreary can go to the vet squad and have the handshake deal that I think we always have with a few guys. Listen, they probably have the conversation like, look, we want to bring you in. We're going to give you a contract. It's kind of a 1-year kind of a deal. But here's the plan. If you can't beat out a player this year, if you can't win a position, we want you on the vet squad. We're going to need you. You're going to play. You're going to be brought up. Will you do it and stick with us for the year? Hopefully that answers yes. And it's just a handshake deal. It's not in a contract. Hopefully that answer is yes. So, McCreary's got his work cut out for him, but I wouldn't be surprised if, shocker, the Lions trade TA. I wouldn't be surprised. I know that they like the kid, and I know that they trust the kid, and it sounds like he's going to be fine. But, man, the optics on this are so bad. The optics in Detroit have been really bad for the last few weeks. It's doubtful you get a first-round pick in return. You probably get a third. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying I want it to happen. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised. Teams that would take them, probably Cowboys. Probably they take everybody.
Eagles.
Yeah. All right. Who else we got left here? Let's go defensive line. Defensive line. On the roster last year. Oh, let's go flip the offense real quick. Let's just get quarterback out of the way.
That's super easy. Goff and Bridgewater.
Yep. QB 2. Goff. Teddy. 2 for you. Goff. Teddy. And I'm also going to say 5th round draft.
Nussmeier?
Oh, no.
Tyler Green?
No. Definitely not.
Really? You didn't like Corey
He's
Skip?
got a great arm. But he's got some bad tendencies too.
Is he too much like Hooker?
No, but he needs a lot of development like they all do. I want a more polished, 5th round guy, if that makes any sense. All right, so defensive line, we have Chris Smith, Mekhi Wingo, Tyler Lacey, Miles Adams, Levi Onwuzurike, Tyleik Williams, Ali McNeil.
Yeah,
And
so
last year, the Lions kept 9, which included
the edge.
the edge. So you've got Reeder, Williams, Lopez, Wingo, and Smith. So we had 5 DTs. And then you had Aiden, Davenport, Muhammad, and O'Connor, which you could call a DE. So we had 4 DEs, so 5 and 4. What do you think?
I'm thinking there's going to be someone from the draft at both of these positions, defensive line and edge. But for right now, I'm going to go with Ali McNeil, Tyleek Williams as my two inside starters. Then you're going to have Aiden Hutchinson and...
Well, hold on. We're just going defensive tackle.
Okay, so defensive tackle. So Ali McNeil, Tyleek Williams, Makai Wingo, and Tyler Lacey.
Wingo and Lacey?
Yep.
Pretty close here. Okay. I've got McNeil, Williams, Lacey, Levi. As long as he's healthy, I think. He'll be on
I
the
got him as an edge. So
as long as he's healthy, he'll be on the roster. Yeah. I think I'm going to have to stop there. I think Chris Smith will go to the practice squad. If memory serves me right, he's like 96 years old, so...
He's 27.
Miles Adams is the only one that is yelling at me, screaming at me, because I really liked what he did when he was in a handful of games. I really liked what Miles Adams brought, and they've kept him now since they snagged him off. Was it Seattle's practice squad or something like that a couple years ago?
Rams.
Or wherever it was, but I really like Miles Adams, and I think he has a shot this year. He's another year older, and quite honestly, if Levi's not healthy, then I think that Adams has a much bigger potential here. But Wingo, I'm going to have to put in as my fifth guy. So I got McNeil, Williams, Lacey, Levi, Wingo. And then DE.
You have Aiden Hutchinson and Peyton Turner. And then I'm going to put Levi O and Ahmed Hassanin. So I'd have 4 and 4. Because we only have 3 edge players on the roster total.
Yeah. Where's Wanham?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's listed
DJ
as a
Wanham for
linebacker
sure.
on here, probably.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. Yeah, he is. That's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an outside linebacker. He's definitely an edge in this this scheme. So I have Aiden. I'll come back to you to give me your list
so
again.
just stick DJ Wanham in there too. So I'll go 5 edge, including Levi O in that group instead of the DL room, and then 4 for the DLs.
So you have Aiden, Turner, Wanham,
and
Levi?
Yeah,
Huh?
Levi O and Ahmed Hassani.
Hassanin?
Yeah. And we're all rooting for him as long as he stays healthy. Man, I don't see any reason why he can't be a decent rotational piece.
No, I think he absolutely can be. 1,000%. And again, you don't draft a 6th-round pick and think that they're going to start, right? Doesn't mean that he can't. Doesn't mean that he can't work his way up and provide high-level ability. But, so Levi is the one that bothers me for you because he's definitely a defensive tackle. I know that he can play out on the edge, and we've put him out on the edge, but he's really a 5 tech that moonlights out, inside, outside.
Either or guy, because Dan talked about him being the big setting edge. So that's why I put him in the edge room, because that's what Dan talked about him being. So
When?
at one of these interviews that he did. He talked about Levi being the big edge that could set the edge.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where they moonlighted him when they didn't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Levi, I don't even know how much he weighs now.
Wow, he's up to 28 years old too.
He's 304 pounds, brother. So,
nothing wrong with the big end.
Yeah, it's way too big. I'm going to put Levi under your DTs.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. So you got Aiden, Turner, Wanham, and Hassanin.
Yeah, and Peyton Turner.
That's what I said. Aiden, Turner, Wanham, Hassanin.
Yeah, so 4 of them, yeah.
That's 4. And then you got McNeil, Williams, Wingo, Lacey, Levi.
Yeah.
That's 5. Okay, I have McNeil, Williams, Lacey, Levi, Wingo, same thing. Aiden, Turner, Wanham, Haas, same thing. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 9. And that's exactly what we had last year to start the season. Now, that does not mean, and I think we both expect this, defensive end and edge to be draft potentials here. Now, the other day we went through that whole unique thing where I was writing I was making the sheet out of where we really needed players. And I told you I was going to have a hot take for you today. I don't see edge as a significant need. I just don't. Not in the first round. Definitely not in the first round. And maybe not even in the second round. If Brad can move back up and get another late second round pick or very early third, that's where I would like to see an edge. I think there's going to be a couple of guys that are available there. And then we have this other guy, Eric, we haven't even talked about yet. I mean, I did last week, but Bernard.
Yeah. God.
Wow. Like, people thought that I made this dude up out of thin air.
Yeah. That came across my phone, and I text you right away. And I was like, I don't know if this is real or not, but you got to check this dude out. He got a 10 on the RAS score. And look at these measurables at 300 plus pounds. And he looks like he's chiseled out of marble. I know he hasn't played football, but oh my God, he is like, if you could in a lab build a defensive tackle edge type of dude, like the ultimate Levi O, okay, you could build the ultimate one in a lab. That's what this guy is. Now we just have to see what's between his ears.
I don't know if I would compare him to Levi O, but I would put him I would put him in the very elite class of J.J. Watt mixed with Myles Garrett mixed with Aaron Donald as far as body type, not play type. I wrote the article and I put it out immediately, did a little video. Now, this guy came, he's from Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And to kind of give everybody the background here, I'm sure you all have already read and watched, but to kind of give you the background here, he was playing basketball. Someone noticed him and said, you should come to this camp. And there was this camp in Nigeria or somewhere. And he just lit it on fire. Right. And then there was a former NFL player, I forget his name, but he caught wind of him and said, you need to come do this 10-week, this 10-week IPP program where he got accepted to. And so he comes out in the HBCU showcase after or during this 10-week IPP pathway program down in Fort Myers. Now he's 21. Now the big stigma on African, Nigerian, players from over that area is their birth date. Like, records are terrible over there, and so you don't really know. And that was a big stigma about Ezekiel Anza. He looked like he was 50 years old, but he played like he was 20. So they don't really know, right? But I guess they're pretty confident he's 21 years old. 306 pounds. And he just completely terrorizes the testing at the HBCU Pro Day. He jumped a broad jump 14 inches longer than every other defensive tackle and defensive end in the class of this year. 14 inches, and it looked effortless, is what they said. So 6'4.5", 306 pounds, 6% body fat.
Did you happen to see how he got there?
I think I have more than 6% body fat in my finger.
So 2 months prior, he started training and he was at 11% body fat. In 2 months, he went down to 6% body fat.
Genetics are a crazy thing, but his wingspan and hands, 11-inch hands. That on my proprietary worksheet, right? That's the elite of the elite. I mean, that doesn't exist. There's hardly ever. I mean, you're talking about 1% of the 1% have 11-inch hands. 1% of the 1% have 36-inch arms. 1% of the 1% can be 306 pounds and run a 4.63 40. 1% of the 1% can be all of that and jump a 39-inch vertical. 10'10" broad. Jordan Llewellyn, who's his trainer, told The Athletic, quote, "Hands down, he is the most explosive athlete I've ever seen in my life." And this guy's been training players for a very, very long time. How does he fit in Detroit? And why is it okay that the Lions waste a draft pick on this player, Eric? And that's what I posed as a question to everybody. We're going to sidebar for just a moment. That's the question that I posed to everybody, and everyone thought that I was nuts. No more projects. Brad Holmes can't do this. You can't waste any more picks. We need guys to come in and play. And the reason why we're doing this exercise today is very simple. How many players in this draft class, are actually going to make the roster for the Lions? We have, count them up, how many draft picks on day 3? We have a fifth, 2 fifths, a 2 6, and a 7.
Yep.
That's 2 4. That's 5, and then 2 4s. That's 7. We have 7 day 3 picks. 7. Tell me, how many of those players do you honestly, those picks, if we kept them all, do you feel are going to make this roster? And more importantly, this is what people don't understand, Eric. I tried to explain it to them. I did the video. It's like they don't even listen. If you were to waste or spend a very valuable 5th round pick, very valuable. No, it's not. A 5th round pick on this guy and jump ahead of everybody. I don't even care if it's a 4th round pick. Got 2 of them. You park him on the practice squad. He's an IPP player. He will not count against your roster.
Yep.
So it does not matter. It does not hurt your roster. Here's what you don't do. You don't let the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Chargers, the Raiders, or any other team that's going to bounce this year and maybe potentially play extremely well and end up in a Super Bowl, you don't give, or the Texans, you don't give them a chance at this guy, this once-in-a-generation type of player. And you let them mold him and build him up. And in maybe a year or 2, he hits the football field. Do I care that he's never played football at all? No. You know why? Because I just wrote an article on a guy that is number 34 in my top 36, and on almost every consensus board right now is a late 1st round pick. Do you know who that is?
Nope.
Max Ihanachor. And Max Ihanachor has only been playing football since 2021. That means he's only had 4 years of football in his life. 4. Maybe 5. And he's about to be a 1st round pick. This guy's 21 years old. He has everything going for him. Right? Same situation to Max Ihanachor, playing basketball. Someone notices him and says, go play football. And then he goes and plays football. and turns out to be one of the best tackles in this draft, one of the most versatile athletes in this draft. So everyone can spare me on you can't waste a pick on this guy. We don't need any more projects. This is a project you do need. This is a project that you do want to have. Now, there has to be more there. But I would say it would be 100% irresponsible for Brad to not waste a pick on this guy and see what's there. And you can absolutely not sell me on the fact that you can't tell this guy, follow the ball, go get the damn ball. That simple. I'm going to put you on third down. I'm going to put you in a wide 9. Go get him. The dude runs a 4.63. Hardly any defensive ends run that fast. And he's 306 pounds. Tell me a tackle or a tight end or a running back that is going to slow this guy down. Nobody. And if you got a guy out there in the wide 9 that looks like this dude that you know is that big and that crazy of a physique, what do you think you're going to do? Are you going to go at him or are you going to go against him? Or are you going to go the other way? Probably going to go the other way. Which means now your defense can funnel to the other side of the field. And when he does start to make plays, then that's when people are really going to wake up. He needs to learn how to tackle, right? He needs to learn the fundamentals of football. But I think that the case can be made that this has been done before. Ezekiel Ansah is the blueprint. Like I said before, same thing. Only played a couple years of football at BYU. He never put pads on. He never played the game. He goes to BYU and put 3 years of football in. It becomes a first-round 5th pick overall. Ezekiel Ansah. So where can this guy be in 2 to 3 seasons of just parked on a practice squad? I don't know. I made my case. What do you think?
Yeah, dude, that's the whole reason I text you about this guy as soon as I saw it. You do not come across someone who puts up a 10 RAS score ever. I don't know if it's ever been done.
Well, let's be honest. The RAS score is not exciting. I don't know why people get caught up in the RAS score. It's
but
just
tell me another player that's ever got a 10.
Oh, there's plenty. There's plenty, but there's
there?
Yeah, there's the RAS is just measurements and that's it. Like that's all it is. It's just measurements.
But that's the only thing we have to go with on this kid is measurements. You haven't seen him even put a pair of pads on before. I mean,
we can go off of what. Here's the thing. When I asked my dude about the guy over the weekend, he said quite literally that every single NFL scout's mouth was dropped. Every single, that's all they could talk about after the ones that attended the HBCU Pro Day. I almost guarantee that Brad Holmes was there. He usually does attend these things or send somebody to attend them. But every single scout couldn't stop talking about this guy. Yeah. That tells me that if they can go sell their GM on the fact that there's something there, we just need to work with it and take advantage of the IPP pathway rules, you got to do it, man. You got to do it. I know, like I would be the most hated GM in the world probably because I would be doing stuff like this, especially when like today's exercise. Eric had 9 draft picks with, what was the number 7 on day 3?
Mm-hmm.
How many of those draft picks do you really feel are going to help this team in year 1? Think about it. The New England Patriots lost 12 fourth-round picks since 2021. And they're not the only team. A lot of teams lose their 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round draft picks because they're not good football players right now today. They need time to develop. And on rosters that have more core players than not, well, they don't have time to develop. They don't have the space to develop. The Lions have a lot of core players. So when you look at the Lions from an opportunistic standpoint, we're not going to be able to bring that many guys in that can start on day 1 unless Brad totally moves up the board by a wide margin. He's going to have to really go up the board. So 2 to 3 players max out of this draft is what we should be expecting that can be great football players that are still going to need some development that can help us on day 1, whether from a rotational or a starting perspective. And that's why I'm not passing on players like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, day 1 starter. I'm not passing on players like that. You know, but to a lesser extent, These linebackers and defensive ends that are a little bit later, into the 50s, these guys are rotational players. They're not day one starters. This draft, like I said, it's a nosedive after like the top 36. It's a nosedive. So anyway, anything else you want to add to that?
Imagine for a second that Brad Holmes takes some stuff, whatever it is, next year, year after, whatever, and he moves up to the 3rd round to take Bernard. The fan base, after he did this with Manu, he did it with the other defensive tackle. His name's escaping my brain right now. When we took Hooker, and then last year with Tesla, giving up all these 3rd round picks. If let's say he gave up the next 2 years 3rd round picks to move up to the 3rd to get this kid this year, the fan base would have a meltdown, an absolute meltdown. And I'm totally looking forward to this happening. And if we hear Bernard's name cast for the Detroit Lions, you want to talk about a lot of articles getting written and stuff all around the NFL. Everybody's going to be watching this kid. So, Brad Holmes, if you're listening, go get him. I don't care what it costs.
I mean,
that's my take on this kid. Go get him.
1,000%, man. Go get the guy. All right, so where were we here? We did our defensive line. We've done corners. We've done safety. We've done quarterback, tight end, running back, wide receiver.
We got to do linebackers.
We got to do linebackers. We got to do O-line. O-line. And if you're just joining right now, or if you didn't catch it earlier, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, lead NFL scout for SIS, Jeff Dean, will be on breaking down this year's offensive line. And, of course, we have the questions prepared as to which ones fit the Lions, right? Which ones fit the Lions? All right, so last year on the offensive line, Eric, we kept 9.
9.
Yep, so we had 9 total, and if I were to break that down, you have Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell, Giovanni Manu, Jamarco Jones as your tackles. So it was 4 tackles and obviously 5 guards. Christian Mahogany, or 4 guards. Christian Mahogany, no, 5. You can call Graham Glasgow a guard too, but guard center. Christian Mahogany, Tate Ratledge, Coyote Iwasaka, and Kingsley is also a center, but also a guard. Not really used as a guard. So I would say you had 4 guards and 2 centers. However you want to dice it up. 5 guards, 5 guards with 2 of them being centers. The guys that didn't make it, Dan Skipper, Tristan Colon, Natane Muty, Gunnar Britton, Mason Miller, Michael Neese, Zach Johnson, a couple of those players that are back this year. So the count is 4 and 5, or we'll go 4, 4 and 1, right? 4, 4 and 1 from last year. You can do whatever you want, but there was 4 tackles, 4 guards, and a bona fide center. So we'll start with offensive line guards. Who are you keeping?
Let's see. Get up to these guys. So Tate Ratledge at right, Christian Mahogany at left, and then my backups are going to be Juice Scruggs and Miles Frazier.
So you're keeping 4 guards.
Yeah. Ben Barch might go to the practice squad.
All right, so on the roster right now, Ben Barch, Miles Frazier, Christian Mahogany, Drew Scruggs, Tate Ratledge. I'll make sure that they don't have any screwed up somewhere. Yeah, like they have left tackle for Giovanni Manu just kind of out in no man's land. It doesn't make any sense. Then you got tackle, Sorsdahl, Miller. Where's the rest of them?
Well, I think it's right tackle for Panay. He's all by himself.
I don't see it yet. There it is. Right tackles. Cochran, Borum, and Penny Sewell. So back to the guards. Barch, Frazier, Mahogany, Scruggs, Ratledge. Based on this roster, I would agree that those are the four guards. Who's your tackles?
Panay Sewell, a draft pick.
No, we're just picking players, though.
Okay. Well, this is what I'm saying. So Panay Sewell, a draft pick. Giovanni Manu. And then, let's see. Where's the right tackles?
You got Borum. You've got
Borum's going to be my backup. So Borum and Manu are my backups. And then Panay Sewell.
Sewell, Manu, Borum.
Yep.
So you've got 7.
Yep. And then Cade Mays is my center.
That's 8.
And as of right now, I would say Seth McLaughlin is your backup.
Well, you gotta just tell me who's on your roster.
Just those 7 for now.
Those 8.
Or 8. Yeah, those 8.
Okay.
I'm going light.
Okay. All right, so I've got Ratledge, Frazier, Mahogany, Scruggs for my guards. Frazier, Mahogany, Scruggs, Ratledge. And then for tackles, right tackle, I've got Borum as the starter, Manu backup, left tackle. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I didn't think you wanted to move Pineda to left.
Hold on. Right tackle, I have Sewell, Borum, Manu. Left tackle, left tackle. Hold on here. Why do they have Mason Miller just listed as a tackle?
I don't know.
I'm pretty positive he was just always a right tackle when he played next to it was a Gray Zabel. He's got a long way to go, but man, he's a player that I expect could make a jump. This year. I forgot to look something up on him earlier. Why is it not showing me?
Yeah, Steven Links in the chat says Sorsdahl, Miller, Cochran, Manu, cut or trade. I think you're giving up on Manu a little too early there, Steven, because Manu, just like we were talking about Bernard with all the physical abilities in the world, that is Giovanni Manu. He's a left tackle, right tackle built in a mold. He just needs to get the experience and get his footwork down.
Yeah,
he came a long way last year, and he's going to come even further in year 3.
Right tackle, right guard. Huh.
And I would not be surprised to see Giovanni Manu do so good in camp that if there is an injury to one of our starters at right or left tackle, that he's the first one off the bench.
Right. So I guess back to this here. They have Giovanni Manu listed as a left tackle, and quite honestly, like, I need to see more from him to be a left tackle. He is our only left tackle really on the roster. Borum can play both sides, so you could put Borum over to the left for now if you really needed to, but Sewell would be my starting right, and you could put Borum over to the left. I wouldn't like that. I hope that doesn't happen. Manu, I think I see him more as a swing tackle right now, that you can get him in the game as an extra blocker in, jumbo sets, 13 personnel, or whatever it is, right? Or jumbo sets, 12 personnel. You can definitely get him in as a swing tackle, and he can give you some snaps. He can definitely road grade with the best of them as a run blocker. His pass blocking needs some help, and his feet are just they're behind his body, really behind his hands, and his hands get really wide at times. And when they get wide, that's when defensive ends just eat him alive, or even defensive tackles on a twist. They eat him alive when his hands get wide. So if he can't get his hands inside, like if I was Giovanni Manu, I would have a big band wrapped around my arms like this, and I would walk everywhere I go like this. Just like when I fumbled the football, in high school, I had to take that football and hold it the next day in class, everywhere, all day. I was never allowed to set it down. So same thing with Manu. Like, I want to see those arms, tape those damn things together, put a band around it, and just walk around like this all day. You build that muscle memory. You get those hands inside, and I think he can go a lot further, a lot quicker. But I have him as my third backup right now to Penei Sewell on the right. Frazier, Mahogany, Ratledge, Scruggs. That is a dangerous interior. Cade Mays, and McLaughlin at center. So 4, 6. I have 9. Yep. Going 4 guards, 2 centers, 3 tackles. I think that any which way you slice this pie, with the tackles that we have on this roster, if you need to put some guys to practice squad, Cochran will obviously be practice squad. Miller, Sorsdahl will be cut or practice squad. Miller will be practice squad, or potentially cut. I hope not. I want to see Miller take a big leap. But like you, I'm expecting something in the draft, and here's a shocker for you. I see more potential with a right tackle in this draft than I do a left. If Proctor is gone, then I don't see it happening. There's not another left tackle that I would want in this draft. I mean, the next left tackle, I would say, is what, Lomu?
Mm-hmm.
And you can get him in the second round. At least the way I've got it shaken.
And what if they do that?
There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't, if Proctor is gone, like if you are legit sold that Proctor is your guy, I mean, great. If you can get Maui Goa and throw him on the right, perfect. Then I understand Sewell going to the left. Spencer Fano, he's a right tackle. I think he'll be gone. Monroe Freeling, he's a left tackle. He's a little bit light in the pants. I think he'll be gone. And then you have Blake Miller, which I think could end up being a second round pick, potentially. He's a right tackle, so that makes sense there.
I liked Blake Miller when we talked to him at the draft.
Yeah, and then you have the true left tackle in this draft. The true left tackle that is immediate day one left tackle. It starts with Caden Proctor. And then it goes to Lomu. And Lomu is probably early day 2 right now. And then there's Maxi Hanachor. Maxi Honichor, in my opinion, is going to be an all-pro guard if they put him in at guard. His I just wrote the article on him last night. I released it this morning. If they put him in at guard, man, like that's instant. He can work on the rest of the things that he needs to work on. But as a tackle, you're more exposed. As a guard, you have a little bit of help. But out on an island by yourself as a rookie, when he still needs more work, right? He's only been playing football for so many years, 4 years, whatever it's been. But bringing in a right tackle, it does make sense in this draft because there's more right tackles. There's more premium right tackles than there are left tackles. So Caden Proctor is the answer, and if he's gone, I think you wait. And I'm not mad at that. Because if you look at our roster right now, you have enough guys to start. It's not the offensive line that you want, but we have enough guys to start currently. So it's all about upgrades, man. And I would say that if you wait to the second round, Brad's going to have to get into the top 38 if he wants the next best right tackle, which is going to be Lomu or Ihanichor. And even Ihanichor, you can bounce him inside.
You think Blake Miller's going to be the first right tackle off the board?
First right tackle off the board?
Yeah.
No, that's Fanu.
Okay. I think he'll have his choice of 3 or 4 guys if he waits till the second round.
For a left tackle?
For right tackle.
For right tackle, yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah,
for right tackle. There's you might see Blake Miller early second round at the very latest, and that depends on, I guess, where the rest of my my mocks end up. But he might jump. Blake Miller might jump Freeling, and I know that's a wild ass take, but he might jump Freeling simply because Blake Miller's a right tackle, and there's more teams that need a right tackle early in the draft that don't need a left, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I look, I haven't done the research. I mean, I know a little bit, but I haven't done the full research to figure out how many position changes there really are. I know that I've called a few for linebackers and edge and that over the last few drafts, and I've been pretty spot on with those. And I have quite a few of those again this year. And this year I actually want to follow it to see where it goes. All right, so to finish offensive line, I had 9, you had 8. So that should conclude the offense, right? Wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, quarterbacks, offensive line. Like, I don't think we're missing anybody, right?
Yeah.
So that would be 9, 11, 14, 18. That's 24 for me on the offense. You have 6 receivers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6. 4 running backs. That's 10. 3 tight ends. That's 13. 2 quarterbacks. That's 15. And then 8 offensive linemen. That's 23. Let's finish out the defense. We have safeties and corners done. Defensive line and edge done. What are we missing? Linebackers.
Linebackers.
All right, so linebackers back in 2024. Or 2025, excuse me. The Lions kept
6?
I think it was 6, yeah. Let me find it here. 6. Yeah, Jack, Alex, Derek, Grant, Zach, and Trevor. This year, this is a light room.
Yeah, Alex is gone.
And right now you have Damon Clark, Trevor Nowoski, Malcolm Rodriguez, DJ Wanham is not a linebacker, Jack Campbell, and Derek Barnes. So out of all those guys, how many make it?
I'm going to say all 5 of them right now. So you got Derek Barnes, Jack Campbell, Malcolm Rodriguez, and Damone Clark. That's the 4 I would keep. Trevor Nowoski, as of now, in, because I need someone in that position.
Well, he's rotational.
Yeah, but I'm going to keep all 5 of them just because that's all we have. Or is there 6?
No, there should be 5. Wanham is not a linebacker.
Yeah,
I mean,
so there's
he
just 5
can
of
be
them.
if he's in a 3-4, right? That's where a position will
Yeah.
put him. But
I'm
in
going to
4-3,
keep all five of these guys plus a draft pick.
yeah. So the way I look at this is Damone Clark is your starting Sam, Jack obviously middle, and then Derek. I'm sorry, Damone Clark starting Will, Jack Campbell your middle, and then Derek Barnes your starting Sam.
Yes.
And then your two backups, Malcolm would be your backup at the Will. Nowoski would be your backup at the Sam. And so you might be looking for the Lions to bring in a middle linebacker in this draft at a very minimum. Obviously, the goal is to get an outside linebacker to take over for Alex Anzalone. So that's 5. And I have 5, obviously, because that's who's on the roster. All right, so we're not missing anything but special teams. I think that one is pretty self-explanatory.
What?
Right? You got Bates, you got
Bates,
Fox,
and then you got Hogan Hatton.
and Hatton.
I
What?
never understood why your center can't be your.
No way. Remember that guy? What?
Yeah, he can't long snap. I mean, why you need a guy just for that?
I've never understood it either, but it is a pretty special talent, I guess. Not everybody can long snap it, but you know, I've said this for years. There's positions that I would never draft, like fullback. No, thank you. If I need a fullback, go get me a linebacker or another bigger tight end that they can do the same thing. Tight end can catch. Tight end should be able to block and create a hole. I don't need a fullback to do that. And then a linebacker would be perfect, right? Or a defensive end. Give me a defensive end back there. You know, someone that's on the rotational list, not a starter. You know, I would never draft a fullback. I would rather have an extra tight end or an extra linebacker or an extra defensive end. Same thing for the snapper. Like, can we not find someone that could do both? Can they train to do both? I don't know.
I'm sure if you said to Cade Mays, hey, dude, you got to do it. Because when I was in high school, I was the punter, and the same guy that was our center for our quarterback was also my center, my long snapper. So if they can dual do it in high school and college, why can't they dual do it in the pros? I don't understand that. Do they hike it back faster than the normal?
Hold on, Robbie. I know you're not comparing Manu to Proctor. Like,
no, the Steven guy in there.
They're not even on the same planet.
Yeah, no, the Stevens guy said sorry, but we need to stay away from Proctor, and they're talking about that.
Why would we stay away from Proctor?
Yeah,
Proctor is the absolute stud in this draft. He's been my number one guy from the very beginning, but yeah, Manu and Proctor are not the same, not even close. Proctor is an immediate day one starter with extreme talent and size. I mean, they're similar size-wise, right? Similar size-wise, similar movement-wise, right? The agility, but from a football IQ, way different. Way different. You know, if they were to be on a graded scale.
Rob was just trying to say why he liked Proctor.
I gotcha. Yeah, so Proctor's he's a special human. You're not going to get a shot at Olavivega Nioni. If where I think he's going, you'd have to get up into the top 10 to get him, or at least the top 13 to get Olavivega Nioni.
I think there's going to be more offensive linemen go high than people are expecting.
If you've seen any of my mock drafts, I mean, I've put, I think, 3 in the top 10 in every one, just about. So, yeah, Steven, I don't know what you watch, but the Proctor is a stud. An absolute stud. I mean, he's given up 2 sacks in career at Alabama against the best defensive rushes you can throw at him, the best defensive tackles, the best defenses. Period.
Yeah,
And when he was 370 pounds, that is when he struggled. He hasn't been 370 in a while. And so once he got down to 350, he crushed everybody.
Yeah, he had one or two bad games at the beginning of the season, then came on. And there's one thing, like, Steven, that you don't get. So there's more than just what they did on the field. There's also what they do when they go to places like the combine, and not just the physical aspect. It's also the mental breakdown of these kids. How do they interview? What do they say? What's their football knowledge? And Will and I, especially Will, had conversations with Proctor at the draft. We both asked him questions during his interview at the podium, and then
I
Will
wasn't
caught
at
him
the
in
podium.
the hallway.
You
Wasn't
might
he
have been at the podium. I wasn't at the podium with him.
Oh, I was when he was there. Because I remember getting a question or two into Proctor, and you caught him in the hallway and got to talk to him a little bit. And I'm telling you, the makeup of this kid is the right makeup for a Detroit Lion.
So I was there, like, when he was talked about it. I was I think in the next line over, and there was just so many people in front of him. I was like, I'm not going to work my way up there. Like, I'll just wait and see it later. But I did hear him talk, and I did get some video on him, I believe. But the fact that he was just so, like, open and charismatic, and I mean, just, you could tell he's just seemed like a good dude, like he's wasn't pissed off about being there. Absolutely wanted to talk to the fans and the media.
Yeah. And he was open and honest about his weight and his playing and his shortcomings. He was very open about it, and he talked about what he needed to change and how he has changed things over the last season or two. And I truly believe when he gets to the pros, this kid's going to have his own personal chef, and he's going to make sure he's eating right, exercising right, and he's going to stay at the proper playing weight, and he'll be dominant at the next level.
Yeah, he will be. He absolutely will be. And honestly, even if you put Proctor in at guard immediately, that's an all-pro guard. You move him to right tackle to kind of get him welcomed into the NFL, he'll be an all-pro right tackle. And I could see that happen, right? I mean, I could see that happen. You don't need to bring in Proctor to be a left tackle. If you really, truly want to put Penei Sewell to the left, then they could do that if they feel more comfortable with that than putting a rookie over there, which, look, that's not a bad idea. But if they flip-flop the next year, that's not a bad idea either. So if you bring in a guy like Proctor and you say, look, we're gonna graduate you through the system a little bit here. We're gonna put you on the right side. Jared will see it coming. Don't expect him to have to really do anything, but he can handle wherever he needs to be. And let's be honest, it doesn't matter if you're on the right or the left. Defenses are going to throw your best at you wherever they feel you're weakest. The difference is on the right side, at least Jared or whomever, whatever quarterback, they can see it. So they can navigate around it. Putting a rookie on the left probably is never a good idea, honestly. I think they should all start on the right, but not every team has that opportunity to have an absolute dog like Penei Sewell, who was a dominant left tackle at Oregon and now could switch back after 5 seasons and maybe pick up where he left off, maybe not. But I don't think it'll be much worse than what he's done on the right side, which has been pretty damn good. So I'm good with it. I'm good with it. I just don't want to see him. I just don't want to see him go before the Lions. But all right, so defense, what do we got here? I got 14, 19, 27. I got 30 on defense, and then you have 5, 9. That's 14, 18, and then what's that? 18, 19, 20, 21. That can't be right. 22, 5, 10, 14, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I got 5, 14, 19, 27. Oh, wait. 5, 9, 14, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. You got 25. So you have 25, including special teams, and 23. So that puts you at 48. You're a bit light.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 30, including special teams on defense, and 24. So I am one over. I don't know how I did that. Where am I over at? Where am I over? Probably offensive line. You would probably say I'm over. But I think we need all those guys. This is just before the draft. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut for my defense. I can't see Reed, T.A., Yasin, McCreary not making it. Rakestraw's on the bubble. If he's healthy, he's in. If I'm going to cut anywhere, damn it, I'd hate to cut defensive line. But, and I even put BB on IR. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me redo this. I counted wrong. 5, 14, 25. I have 28. And I have 25 on defense. I was double counting I have two numbers here. I was double counting. So that puts me at 52. 52. So I'm 1 short. You're 5 short. How are you 5 short?
Because I'm going light in the pants until this draft.
You think 5 guys on this draft are going to make the roster?
Probably.
All right, well, let's recap it. Wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Isaac Tesla, Dortch, and Meeks. That's who I have. We agree on that. The difference is you added Tom Kennedy. So that's 6.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I got to cross all these out. I think I miscounted my offense too. So you have 6, I have 5. Running backs, we both have 4. We have the same 4. Gibbs, Pacheco, Vaki, Sailors. Tight ends, we have 3. We have the same 3. Laporta, Wright, Conklin. Quarterbacks, we have the same 2. Goff and Teddy. Offensive line, I have 9. You have 8. I have Ratledge, Frazier, Mahogany, and Scruggs. So do you for guards. Centers, I have Mays and McLaughlin. You have Mays. Tackles, you have Sewell, Manu, and Borum. I have Sewell, Borum, and Manu. So we agree there. But I have 9 with the extra center. So that's 9, 11, 14, 18. That's only 19. Can that be? 9, 11, 14, 19. I'm sorry. 19, 24. Nope, it's right. I got 24. You have 8, 10, 13. I guess math is hard today. 17, 23.
Your
so
math
20,
ain't mathing today.
yeah, 23 for you on offense, 24 for me on offense, and then on defense. 5 linebackers, we agree. Chuck Clark, or Damone Clark, Jack, Malcolm, Barnes, Nowoski. Defensive line, I have 5 interior guys, McNeil, Williams, Lacey, Levi, and Wingo. You have McNeil, Williams, Lacey, Levi, and Wingo. So we agree on the interior guys. Defensive ends, we have Aiden, Turner, Wanham, and Hassanin. You have Aiden, Turner, Wanham, and Hassanin. So we agree there. That's 9. So that's 14 total. Corners, I have 5. You have 4. I have Reed, T.A., Yasin, McCreary, Rakestraw. You have McCreary, Reed, Yasin, and Rakestraw. And TA, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you got 5. That's right. I miscounted for you. Okay. TA was hiding. This is why I like to write things out on the PC instead of my handwriting. So that's 19. I'm sorry, that's 9, 14. Yeah, that's 19 so far. And then safeties. You have BB, Joseph, Clark, and Izian, which is 4. It's actually 23 on your defense. And then that would be 26 with special teams. And I have Kirby Joseph, Thomas Harper, Clark, and Izian with Brian Branch on IR. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. So that'd be 10, 19, 23. So I have 23 on defense, 26 with special teams. Right, we should be aligned. 5, 9, 5, 4, and 3. So we both have the same on defense. Right? Is that what you're thinking here too?
Yeah.
Okay, so 26. You have 49. And I have 50. I still don't understand how I'm 3 short. Oh, well. Let's take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to dive into... time is at 10 o'clock. We'll take a quick break. We're going to dive into... what are we diving into today? Draft strategy. That's where we're going next.
pressured by Hutchinson. He goes down again.
All right, we back. So draft strategy, Eric. So going through this, when you look at what you put together here, keeping 6 wide receivers, obviously that wouldn't leave a ton of opportunity for the Lions to bring in another wide receiver unless that they do, and then Meeks or Kennedy drops out, right? Honestly, I think that the more I think about the receiver room, I've always wanted to keep 6 because it seems like at some point you need a different receiver, whether it's injury or whatever. The just because, or we have a guy like, what was his name? Isaiah Williams, who I thought was really good, that ended up getting cut. And now he's with the Jets, but that's a player that was playing really well, playing to a high level, and you thought, man, that guy should have made the roster. And where would he be today with a couple years of development, right? So you kind of look at it like, I really want to keep a guy because they're playing well, but then that puts the pinch on the offensive line or the defensive line. And when you go through the draft, you have to look at it from the standpoint, at least this is what, we've been told by Brad Holmes. He looks at it from the standpoint of, okay, is that 6th receiver better than that 9th corner? Or is that 6th receiver better than that 5th defensive end or 5th defensive tackle? And those are the games you got to play. Like those are really tough games to play. So being that this is just an exercise to kind of say, look, these are the players that we have on the roster today. And out of these players, we almost have a starting 53, a top 53. Mm-hmm. Doesn't leave a lot of room for more starters. Would you agree or disagree? And I guess to the comments in the chat right now, and then obviously the comments later, would you agree or disagree that you have 49, I believe, I have 50, that there's 4 starters in this draft that the Lions could get with their picks the way that they sit right now?
You got to remember, free agency isn't over until the season starts. And then even then, you can sign players all the way through. And Brad never stops. He's 365, 7 days a week looking for players for this team. He never stops looking. And
but the question is the roster now to the draft. And with our draft picks, are there 4, according to your draft, yes, or your 53, are there 4 starters available in this draft compared to where we're picking in the draft?
Well, it might not take 4 starters. It might take 3. Okay. Just because I have a spot left open doesn't mean that I can't put someone that we currently have up to a starting position with a better backup. So, just because somebody's not the starter right at this moment doesn't mean they won't be when the season starts. Someone like Damone Clark, okay, for instance, he may be the starter going into this year. And if we draft a linebacker, that guy might be a backup linebacker to him instead of being the actual starter. So starters, I think we have to get an offensive lineman. I'm thinking we're going to have to get a safety and possibly an edge to start. But the edge is the third place. 3 to 4 possible starters out of this draft would be amazing. We don't have the bullets to pull off a 4 starter like the draft with Sam Laporta and Gibbs and.
Okay, so walk through it this way then.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get you to marry up our draft picks with what we have currently.
Okay,
to players that can round out this top 53, because you have to consider the top 53 that's your starting 53, right? That's your roster. Out of that roster, 25 are bona fide starters, 11 offense, 11 defense, 3 on special teams. And then you have primary rotational players after that, your defensive tackle, your defensive end, nickelback, that's not in a typical, 4-3 base alignment. And then you have receivers that can come in and out, different personnel formations. So given that, you probably have 39 players on a roster that are primary positions of use all the time, and they're playing a lot of snaps. You've got a total of 25 plus another 11 on special teams, if you will. That puts you at 36, and then you have at least 3 or 4 players that are rotating in all the time. So maybe it's a top 40 for most teams that they have 40 players that are playing a high level of snaps or more than 50% of the snaps. And then after that, it's like the bottom 13, which are still good players. A lot of them get snaps in. A lot of them are playing. One's your backup quarterback. He'll never play or shouldn't play. Hope he doesn't play. Your third running back is a special teams guy primarily, or a gadget guy, depending on, a gadget play. And then your 8th offensive tackle that you typically bring in on game day, a lot of those guys are your backup, and then your 7th is your swing. Your 6th really is your swing. Your 7th is probably another swing, depending on, the type of system that you run. So with all that in mind, will you look at where the Lions are picking, which is 17, 50, 118, and 128. Out of those first 4 picks, if we stick and pick, how many starters are you getting? Because right now, I just went and redid this, by the way. Apparently, I can't add in my head. I have 49. I have 23 on offense, 23 on defense, and 3 on special teams, with Brian Branch going to IR. Okay, you have on defense, let's make sure I did this right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 5. You have 23 on defense. And you should have the same for offense. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, had we have done this before instead of doing it live, this would have been a lot smoother. I apologize, everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's my fault. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we're the identical. 23, 23, and 3.
So if we stick and pick with the first 4 picks, I see 3, possibly 4 starters. And if you look at where I went light on the offensive line. I went light in the DB room, and I went light at edge. So that's probably my 3 positions of, I guess you would call it, need. My 3 biggest needs. Now you got to put those in order. How would you put these in order? I would probably say offensive line is my biggest need. And then probably a safety would be my second need. And then either an edge or a defensive tackle with the other 2 picks. So out of my top 4 picks, I'm going to say I'm going to go offensive line, safety, and I forgot tight end. And then
well, you just got to pick your top 4.
Yeah, so top 4, I'm going to say offensive lineman, a safety, an edge, and a defensive tackle.
Okay.
Because you got to build through you have to have the trenches. So you have to have edge and tackle, and then you have to have an offensive tackle. So 3 out of my top 4 would be trench players on either side of the ball.
Okay, so for me, I mean, on offensive line, I went 9, and I would expect 10 are probably going to stick this year. The last time the Lions kept 10, it's probably been a hot minute. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I have it in my spreadsheet. 26, 25, 24. So back in 2024, the Lions kept 3 left tackles, Taylor Decker, Dan Skipper, Giovanni Manu, 2 left guards, Glasgow and Nice, 1 center, Frank Ragnow, 2 right guards, Kevin Zeitler, Coyote Awasika, and 2 right tackles, Penei Sewell and Kobe Sorsdahl. So that's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that was 23 total offensive players, with 10 of them on the offensive line. That was your 53. So all the way back to 2024 is when that's the last time the Lions did that. If I go back to 2023, the Lions had 1 left tackle. Even though I wrote 3, I only see 1 written here for some reason. Graham Glasgow, Matt Nelson, Frank Ragnow, Jonah Jackson, Hada Paluti Vaitai, Penei Sewell, and Kobe Sorsdahl. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 offensive linemen in 2023 on the top 53. I'm going to have to go double check that one. But 10. So 2024, 10. So I wouldn't be surprised if we keep 10.
Yeah.
When you look at the injuries that the Lions have gone through, it's been offensive line every damn year. We're 8, 9, 10 different offensive line formations. You're not going to have success with your offensive line in the run game or offensive line in the pass game if you're consistently changing up the formation due to injury. And I think that the Lions have done an excellent job this year of, just look at the guys that we have right now. Ratledge going into his second year. Frazier going into his second year. Mahogany going into his third year. Scruggs, I think, is going into his 5th year or 4th or 5th year. Cade Mays going into his, 5th year, I believe. McLaughlin going into his second year of, first year of being healthy. Penei Sewell's going into his 6th season. Larry Borum, I think, is about the same. And Manu is going into his, so he was a 2023, right?
This will be his 3rd season.
Well, he was 24. 24's draft?
Yep.
Right? So this will be his 3rd.
Year, he didn't play. Last year, he played left tackle, and then this year.
Yeah. So I think when you look at the overall room, they've elevated snap counts. They've elevated time on task, and they've brought in some more veterans between Mays and Scruggs.
And Borum.
In Borum, he brought in 3 more vets that can play multiple positions. So O-line, I'm just going to say it. It is not an absolute need. It's just not. It's not an absolute need. What it is a position that you want to upgrade. You want to upgrade. And so sometimes upgrading doesn't necessarily mean, okay, we've got a glaring hole at left tackle. If you can't find the right left tackle in this draft, you're not going to just draft the left tackle to draft the left tackle. And I think that's where the Penei Sewell thing comes into play. And then when you think about right tackle, well, shoot, we've got 4 of them. Is there a need? Nope. Not when you have 4 of them. Not when you have a bona fide starter in Borum, excuse me. And then you don't know what you got in Giovanni Manu yet, but he could be good. I don't think Frazier is a right tackle. I don't see it. So doesn't mean he won't get snaps over there, but I don't see it. So the thing for me is maybe offensive line gets ignored in the first round if they don't get their guy. I think that's what it boils down to. They got to get their guy. But I would agree, O-line is probably numero uno. And I've been saying safety from day one. I've mocked safety in the first round numerous times because I just feel like we don't know what we don't know. And we don't know if Kirby's going to play or not. And we won't know until OTAs if he's even available yet. And if he's not playing at rookie camp or OTAs, we have a problem. And to your point about free agency, yeah, I think that, like I've been saying, you might have a couple of trickles, nothing major. And then after 53-man cuts, you'll get a few more guys that potentially get targeted and brought in if the right guys get cut from other teams. So edge and defensive tackle, I would put defensive tackle over edge. But if I'm going to run down the line, I'm going to say O-line, safety, linebacker, defensive tackle, edge, tight end. Now, I don't know where that lines up to what I did the other day. Remember the other day I drew those funny... pictures.
Yeah, and I think that, tight end for me also would be, probably the fifth thing on my list, just like you had. And I'm not necessarily thinking that we get a bona fide starter out of this draft with a tight end. We just
Not unless you go early.
Yeah, but I just don't see us going early, unless there's some way that my guy falls to me there, Sadiq. He falls to 17. I would not put it past Brad to take him.
Yeah, see, when I think about Sadiq, man, I think Sadiq is more of an X receiver. And then I went back and watched more film on him. I must have been watching some of the wrong film when it comes to blocking. I watched some more tape that was sent to me just for his blocking. The dude's a blocker. Like he's an absolute blocker. But he's an X receiver. They can also block, can catch the hell out of a pass, can run routes, is fast, can body. Sadiq is a weapon. And I think that when you hear Brad Holmes in your head all day, it's, what is he going to draft? Jahmyr Gibbs. Why? Because he's a weapon. That's why.
Yeah, and remember
he's not a running back. He's a weapon. Right?
Remember when Brad Holmes drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, it was a D- draft pick.
Yeah.
D-. I will, oh God, I'll stand on that hill forever and remember that he got a D- for that draft with 4 future All-Pros or Pro Bowlers.
So when I did this the other day on the defensive side of the ball, I went DB ahead of linebacker, linebacker ahead of edge. I went safety ahead of linebacker, linebacker ahead of edge, and I finished with safety DB and then linebacker and then edge and then defensive line. So safety DB, linebacker, edge, and then defensive line. And today it's safety, linebacker, defensive tackle, edge. So all I did was put defensive tackle ahead of edge today. Overall, it's offensive line, then safety, then linebacker, then DT, then edge, then tight end. And then I'll put receiver in there as well. Now, it doesn't mean that you're drafting in that order, but it's... And I'll also put running back. Where would you put running back and wide receiver after tight end?
Yeah, like that.
Running back, wide receiver?
Running back and wide receiver. I don't even think we're gonna. I don't even think we need to draft one.
Why receiver?
Ways to pick? Yeah, why ways to pick?
I don't think it's wasted.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put it on my list.
If you got Sadiq, you don't need a receiver.
Nope.
But if I still think that there's some receivers in this class that really elevate what you're able to do.
Let the other teams go after all the wide receivers and waste their draft picks on wide receivers this year. We're fine. Let's go after everything else.
Okay, so how do we...
And then quarterback would probably be next to last on my list. Find that backup quarterback of the future.
Yeah, whoever said something about 48 players, we're talking about top 53. We're not talking about 48.
I don't see 48 on there.
Someone said something about you're forgetting about there's only 48 players. No, forget about that. We're talking about the 53. I'm not talking about the 48.
On game day.
Yeah, five scratches they're still on your roster. They're not going anywhere. So how do we equate this to draft picks? How do you do it? You know, what do you think
Yeah.
makes sense, right? So now you've developed your list. You've got O-line, safety, edge, defensive tackle, tight end, running back, wide receiver. We pick at
List that off for me again.
O-line, safety, edge, defensive tackle, tight end, running back, wide receiver.
I'm going to do QB and then wide receiver.
And then I went O-line, safety, linebacker, defensive tackle, edge. Now everyone's probably wondering, like, why do you guys have edge so far down on the list? Well,
Doesn't mean it won't be our first pick.
yeah, it doesn't mean that it won't be the first pick. It doesn't mean that it won't be the second pick or even the third pick. All it means is in the hierarchy of what the needs analysis is based on what we just did with the roster and trying to, pick our top 53. We both have 4 holes left to try to fill. And if I'm going to fill those 4 holes and I went O-line, safety, linebacker, DT, I think that's a pretty good draft if all 4 of those players play at a high level and commit to a lot of snaps. If Eric went O-line, safety, edge, DT, well, I think a lot of you would probably be more happy with that. But we're going to see how that shapes up right now.
Yeah, and I gotta fill linebacker in there somewhere. It's got to go in somewhere.
Well, then revise your list before we start. I just need to know.
Just between defensive tackle and tight end, that's where I'm putting linebacker.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be your 5th.
Yep, my fifth.
Linebacker, then tight end, and then running back, and then receiver.
No, running back, quarterback, wide receiver.
And you added quarterback.
Yeah. After running back, it's
I got you now.
quarterback.
All right. Let's pull this draft in real quick and see how we can mess it all up.
Oh, we're gonna do a draft.
Yep. Might as well. It'd help if I had the right screen open.
It is mock Monday.
Yep, it is for everybody else, right? All right, we're going to do all 7 rounds. You're doing the Lions. This is your draft. I'm going to randomness less. Now, which board do you want? Do you want the PFF big board? Do you want the PFF analyst picks? Do you want the consensus? Trevor Sycama's board. Did they take all those out because he's no longer there? I still can't believe PFF did that shit.
Yeah, who's left at PFF?
Yeah, there's nobody left. Yeah, they don't even have it in there anymore, do they?
So is there a PFF for the season this year?
I have no idea what's going on, dude.
If nobody's working there, then
No, I mean they're working. Like they separated the company. So all right, here we go. I'm just gonna leave it the way that it is. And let me there, people should be able to see that. So Mendoza, Reese, Love, Bain, Styles, Maui Noah, Bailey, Fano, Delane, Tate, Downs, Freeling, Sadiq, Thieneman, McCoy, and Olive Vega Neone all went prior to 16. You are left with, according to your list, you're going O-line.
Yep.
So all the offensive linemen are available as far as tackles, except for Neone's, gone. Freeling's gone. And Maui Noah's gone. And Fano is gone. So is Proctor. You have to walk us through it. So walk us through it. Who's better based on your list? You're going vertical.
So if you go down my personal list, I'm going to say it's Caden Proctor because I loved this kid at the combine, what he did, his measurables, what he did in school, only allowing 2 sacks in college. He played in the SEC. And what does Brad Holmes love? He loves Alabama players. He has made it Alabama North up there in Detroit. So that is the reason I would take him. And I would take him over Miller because Miller is a right tackle where I think Caden Proctor could play either or, but we're going to stick Caden Proctor at left tackle. We're going to keep Penei Sewell at right tackle in his more natural NFL pro position, and we're going to run with it. And if Proctor slips, we can always move him to the right. So with my first pick, I'm going to go Caden Proctor here. But I'm flexible, so if Proctor happened to have been gone at this point, or Proctor and Spencer Fano would have been the ones that were gone, you know, I could have found someone else. Blake Miller, Max Ahinachor, I think I would have waited until the second round. Monroe Freeling, I would have been very wary taking him at 17 just because he doesn't have enough games under his belt. So yeah, he's another one I would probably wait until the second round. That's just my personal take on it.
So you're taking Proctor?
Yeah, I'd take Proctor right here.
Okay. And
With
according
what's
to
available.
according to Daniel Jeremiah's what is this? NFL draft prospect rankings. Dylan Thieneman is there at 17. Omar Cooper Jr., Blake Miller, Monroe Freeling, Jordan Tyson, Caden Proctor, Akeem Messidor, TJ Parker, Colton Hood, Caleb Lomu, Denzel Boston, Cassius Howell, KC Concepcion, CJ Allen, Keldrick Falk, Anthony Hill Jr. That rounds out his top 32. Now, if I go to the most recent, this site could be so much better. Like if you could link in, you know, the latest mock drafts, or if it could tell you the latest mock drafts. Like I wish I could make a site. Like, I wish I knew coding and all that, because I would make such a badass site. Maybe I just need to hire somebody to do it. All right, 4 days ago, Kuiper, Yates, they did their draft, and at 17, they gave the pick Monroe Freeling. You know, I keep seeing everybody putting Monroe Freeling there. Like it's been Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kuiper, Tim Twentyman. It's like all they do is continue to just peddle the same thing that everyone else puts in. And I always ask the question, why? Like, why does everybody seem to be converging on the same pick when it usually never ends up being that pick, right? Every year. All right, so at 50, you took care of O-line.
Mm-hmm.
And now you said safety.
Yep.
Or edge.
Who's left?
Or DT.
Yep. So let's see what's available.
So you have AJ Halsey, you have Kamari Ramsey, Genesis Smith, Zaki Wheatley. Bud Clark is flying down the board the other way.
How come?
Because he's not that good, dude. I told everybody, like, I'm not high on Bud Clark. So who are you taking?
So
you
who's
got the
highest?
safety, or you said edge. So if you went edge here, got Gabe Yakis, which I don't think he goes anywhere close to 50. I think he's going to be probably end of the second, early third.
Yeah, but Malachi Lawrence right there.
You have Malachi Lawrence.
Ooh,
You have Danny Dennis Sutton, Joshua Josephs, Derek Moore. Now, when you look at Joshua Joseph's tape, it's interesting because he doesn't have a bunch of snaps. First of all, he was a rotational piece. But when you look at his tape and you watch how he lines, like where he lines up primarily outside, as it says here, 21.3 pass rush win rate, 91.3 true pass rush grade, run stop 8.2%. This guy's on my radar, but this is your draft, so you have to tell me where to go.
Yep.
You have to tell me who to look at, who to pull up. What are we doing?
Right now, if I was picking an edge, it'd probably be Malachi Lawrence because he kind of blew me away at the combine.
All right, we'll start the clock now.
Sure. Okay. Now show me who the safeties are again. One time that was really fast.
I'll put him in the same list. So there you go.
All right. Barely. I see a bunch of edges and AJ Halsey. I don't like AJ Halsey.
I don't know why. He's one of the best safeties in the group.
I don't know. If you look at SIS, they have Halsey all the way down at rank number 100, safety number 11.
Yeah. Are you going by what everybody else thinks, or are you doing your
No.
own work?
No, I'm going by what I'm going to take Malachi Lawrence there.
There we go. I try not to do what everybody else does.
Yeah. No, I'm just out of the guys that impressed me down at the combine, I'm going to say Malachi Lawrence was. Dude,
I don't remember Malachi. I remember I talked about him the day before the edges went and how impressive he was in some other areas. I don't remember him at the combine.
Yeah, he was blowing it up.
I don't remember. I just don't remember his day there.
We were sitting there talking about him, and I remember I liked him and Gums.
Malachi, I remember I talked about him on, I think, Tuesday night.
Yeah,
Tuesday night is when I brought him up. Okay, so you got your edge. So you felt that the edge was better than the safety.
Yeah.
At that point. So now you still have safety that's vertically on your list, the number one position. So now we go to safety, and all of the best safeties are gone.
This is where I take Bud Clark or Michael Taff. Yeah. But as of right now, I'm taking Bud Clark. I like Bud Clark.
Yeah. Taff has got T-Rex arms.
Yeah. Well, what did I send you the other day? No turds, no T-Rex arms. So we're not drafting any of those.
I don't know why you would take Taff then.
All right. Well, I'm taking Bud Clark. I made my decision up super fast. I ran up there with the card.
Okay. Bud Clark. We'll draft him. And then let me pull up Bud Clark here. He's not even anywhere near my top 50, obviously. Come on. Where's he at? Bud Clark. Sixth-year senior. Coming out of TCU. How old is he?
Not sure.
But he's 6'1", 188 pounds, so he's string beanie. That was one of my biggest concerns. He's a string bean out there.
He can put on a few pounds before.
He's a little short. I mean, he's more 6 foot and 7/8 inch. Call him 6'1". Pretty handsy. Pretty aggressive. Run game, not the greatest. But he is a ball hawk. Has hands. This is SIS. Has hands and closing speed to make impact plays as a turnover machine. But his thin frame and lack of impact in the run game limit his appeal as a starting safety early in his career. Hopefully, right, Kirby and BB are good in this guy's backup and special teams. You would hope. He ran a 4.4 140. He has 9-inch hands, 31.5-inch arms. Measured in at 188. His vertical was 38. His broad jump, dude, U.R. Bernard had a better broad jump than this guy. 10'7". That's crazy, isn't it? He as far as his grades, again, according to SIS, man coverage grade was a 5, zone was a 6, range was a 7, ball skills a 6, tracking a 6, a blitz 4, physicality 5, communication is 6, special teams value is a 7. So this is again where people say, but Eric, 3rd round picks, they're supposed to be starters.
It's a 4th round pick, isn't it?
You know what I mean? 4th round picks. They're supposed to be starters. Doesn't matter. It's close enough. This guy's going to be high special teams value, and that's probably about it. Maybe some dime looks, but maybe he converts to corner. I don't know if he's good enough in corner. I don't know if his hips are good enough to do that. I think he plays better with the ball in front of him versus with, turning and flipping and running. His overall statement here, Bud Clark projects as the number 3 safety who fits best in a single high scheme as the center fielder. So that would be a Kirby Joseph position. His instinct, smooth range, and closing speed allow him to cover significant ground on the back end. He consistently plays the ball with confident hands, hunts turnovers, and has a knack for turning tipped or contested throws into takeaways on third downs. His primary value will come through coverage and momentum-changing plays. He has the experience, the aggression, and speed to be a core special teams player. So special teams to start, and turning into a ball hawk, rangy, free safety is probably where you see him going. So you got your safety, you got your edge, you got your O-line. The question is, when you get to pick 1, 2, 8, are you going after a DT, a linebacker, a tight end, a running back, or is there another offensive line, safety, or edge that makes a lot of sense to you? Where would you like to start?
See who's available.
Well, you're looking at it.
Dude, that's so hard for me to see.
Well, you got to tell me, where do you want me to start?
Let's see. Let's see who the defensive tackles are that are available.
Okay, you got Chris McClellan, Tim Keenan, DeMonte Capehart, Albert Regis, Zane Durant, Cole Brevard, Bryson Eason, Skylar Gill Howard, but now you're getting into the 200s.
Yeah, no. Go back up. I like Capehart. I just don't know if I like him here or with my next one. So let's look at linebacker.
All right, linebacker. Bryce Bocher, Tareen York, Caleb Elam's-Orr, or Aiden Fisher, Trey Moore, Owen Heineke, Red Murdoch, Jack Kelly, Harold Perkins Jr., Eric Gentry. Any of those?
No, I think I'm going to go with the kid from Clemson, the defensive tackle.
My guy.
Yeah, I like him too.
DeMonte Capehart.
Yep.
All right, that's your choice. You got your DT. So now you move into your next pick. Are you looking at linebacker, defense, tight end, running back, quarterback, wide receiver? Or are you going back up to the top of your board, looking at O-line, safety, edge, or DT?
Could be looking at corners also in this kind of a range, because this is what, the 5th round now or end of the 4th?
You're at 157.
Okay. And my pick before was
128.
Yeah, but what was his name? I'm right.
Capehart. Capehart.
Oh, so hey, there's my guy staring me in the face right there. Ephesians Prysock. So I talked about him while we were out there at the combine. I just don't know if it's too early to take him.
You're at one. Well, according to this, he's a 162. You're at 157.
Yeah. So it's not too early, I suppose. This kid really impressed me on the field, not so much in talking to him. He came off as very shy and very not laid back, but not really outgoing when you were talking to him. So he didn't have a lot of confidence in that part of it. But when he got on the field, I mean, he looked great. He ran great.
Okay, so is that your pick, or am I looking at anything else?
So we're gonna look at something else. We're gonna look at the tight ends right here. See if maybe I should go after a tight end.
Got Nate Borkacher, Joe Royer, Eli Raridan, Josh Cuevas, Miles Kitzelman, John Michael Gillenborg, Tanner Kazile, Daquan Wright. This is right kind of in the starting the wheelhouse for probably a tight end run.
Yeah. Oh, the only one I know is the kid from Wyoming there. Man, and it's too early for him. Let's see. What do we got for running backs right now?
Le'Veon Moss, Jaden Ott, Katron Allen, Damon Claiborne, Jamari Taylor, Kalon Black, Eli Hedenreich, Desmond Reed, Robert Henry Jr. I mean, if you're looking for one of the studs, you've got to get probably 118. 118 would have been the pick.
Yeah. And it might have to be a linebacker here. I don't know if you go by need or if you double down on something. So,
Well, are you need or are you going BPA?
yeah, let's see. What's the best player available on their board? What are they saying right now? Just
Well, that starts
overall.
with Le'Veon Moss, Jaden Ott, the two running backs, then Diego Pounds, the tackle out of Mississippi, and then Nate Borcher, the tight end. Diego Pounds is 6'6", 335, 23 years old. He's got terrible grades.
Mm-hmm. Look at that top tight end for me, would you?
Nate Borcher. Contested catch rate, 75%. Why is he not have...
Like, what's his size? How big is he?
Why does he not have... He's 6'4", 250. So he's right there, you know, a little heavy,
Okay.
but just a little north of average.
You have any decent production?
No.
No.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm going to pull one out of my butt. I'm taking the tight end from Wyoming.
The tight end from Wyoming?
Yep. There's a
Tight
couple
end from
down.
Wyoming.
Yeah.
What's his name?
It's just escaping me right now. Right
Oh,
there.
Gillenberg?
John Mitchell Gillenborg, yeah.
John Michael? Ooh. Had a bad year last year. 6'5", 251. All right, Gillenborg it is. There you go. Got your tight end. Now you've got linebacker, running back, quarterback, wide receiver still on your list. And if you're looking at the linebackers, you've got Trey Moore, Owen Heineke, Red Murdoch, Jack Kelly, Harold Perkins, Gentry. If you're looking at running back, they're pretty much gone.
Yeah.
You've got Jamari Taylor, Kalon Black, Eli Heidenreich.
Not too worried about running back this year.
Quarterback.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's see what the quarterbacks who's left now, because we're into what round now?
You should be in the 6th, yeah.
6th round, yeah. This is where I want to take one if I'm going to take one. So Cole Payton is there. Talon Green. Dude, I really like the Talon Green kid. I know that you weren't too sold on him. I really liked his testing ability and physical ability, and I think that's what Brad Holmes really likes. I'm going to take Talon Green.
A 60-pick jump goes to Talon Green. All right. Now we've got linebacker, wide receiver still on your list, or now you're just free to pick whatever you want. You've got...
I know what my next pick is.
You got 3 picks left, so where are you going now?
Yep. My next pick is the gentleman that we talked about this morning from Nigeria. And he's not even going to be on that list.
Oh, Bernard?
Yep.
Yeah, he's not going to be in here. I can't do anything about that.
So if he was available, that's where I would take him.
Okay. So who you taking?
So look back at the corners for me, would you?
Corners. TJ Hall, Jaden Kennedy, Andre Fuller, Damani Jackson, DJ Harvey, Devonta Smith.
So there's 2 I like right there. The Andre Fuller and Damani Jackson. Oh, man. This would be my 7th pick, and we have 9. So I'm going to go Fuller from Toledo there.
Andre Fuller?
Yep.
Andre Fuller it is. All right, you got 2 picks left, 213, 222.
Let's see. I like that VJ Payne kid. I like the Lorenzo Styles, but I think he's going to be at the back end. And these are best players available right now. Yeah, let's take a flyer on a linebacker right there. We'll go Reed Murdoch, the best linebacker available, since I did not address that need whatsoever.
Red Murdoch.
Yeah.
And last pick.
Let's see if there's anybody I know. Harold Perkins. Sure, all the guys I liked are gone by now. Can you scroll down a little bit for me?
So if you went, I mean, according to their board, BPA is Desmond Reed, the halfback out of Pittsburgh, 5'8", 175. If it were me, I'd say no. You got Jack Kelly, the linebacker out of BYU. Intriguing pick, a little bit later. Harold Perkins, I mean, you'd have to make your own decision, but I really liked Harold Perkins. He's got some small arms, some small hands, but some versatility.
Yeah. I think I'm going to double down on cornerback. I'm going to take Damani Jackson.
Damani Jackson, 6'1", 196. Don't know anything really about him. Okay, there's your board.
F.
Oh, you did okay, but you got some Fs in there. To get an A plus or an A minus with Red Murdoch that late, that's pretty solid pickup. I don't know why they gave you a C minus for DeMonte Capehart, but so they don't grade you based on.
So run through my grades here.
They don't grade you based on anything other than against their board. Yeah, why is this is not lining up at all on this screen?
Gotta go way over to the right.
Hold on.
See, now, John Michael Gillenborg, he's going to be one of my sleepers now since they gave me an F, him and Taylor Green.
I think I liked Gillenberg at the combine.
So
you got a B minus for Proctor, you got an A minus for Malachi, you got a B minus for Bud Clark, a C minus for DeMonte Capehart.
Yeah.
Gillenborg, you got an F. Taylon Green, you got an F. Andre Fuller, you got a D plus. I wish it would give you some reasons as to why, but
yeah, why?
Red Murdoch, you got an A minus. I think because he slipped a little bit, and then Damani Jackson, you got a C plus. Overall C plus.
Okay.
Let's download that. We'll save that. And 7 rounds, all enter. Start. Looks like I got to move the screen. I think I'm going to have to just go full screen next time. Take us off screen.
I'm going to have to disappear shortly. Okay. I got a bunch of deliveries coming today because on Friday, the Mackinac Bridge was closed. So all of my deliveries that were supposed to come on Friday are all coming today.
All right. So everyone that I like early, like Kenyon Sadiq, he's gone. I mean, Maui Noah, I know he's not getting out of the top 10. That's just craziness. So I'm going to have to just do what I can here. Right? So on my list, I went O-line, safety, linebacker, DT. And so when I'm looking at this list, if I've got Olavai Vega Neoni available as the best guard in this, honestly the best guard in this draft, as a left guard, I mean, I don't know how I could walk away from somebody like that, like to totally upgrade your interior. And then that puts Mahogany and Frazier as backups. I would do that, especially when you have Penei Sewell going to the left, and then you put Neoni to the left, Mays and Ratledge, and you're telling me that your only weak spot would be the right side, and you still might be able to end up with a right tackle later in this draft? I don't think I could walk away from that. As a matter of fact, I really couldn't walk away from that. Even though I'd want Proctor, I still want to upgrade my guard. I'm taking Neoni.
Wow.
Look, hey, it is what it is, right? And then you get down into the tackles and you see what's available down here. There's just not much at 50. This is why a trade up is so important.
But we were doing no trades today, weren't we?
Right. Like Jennings Dunker, I know a lot of people like this guy.
Yeah.
He's just his gap integrity is terrible.
Is he a right or a left tackle?
He's a right. 6'5", 315. I honestly wouldn't take him, but and I know you got to run, so if you just want to do your thing.
Yeah. So I'll keep listening in for the whole thing, so I'll know what you picked and why you picked them.
Yeah, well, I'll save it too.
Yeah. And if you can, message me what we want to focus on for tomorrow with our guest.
Well, that'd be in the afternoon.
Oh, okay. I thought we were having them on in the morning.
No, it's in the afternoon. It's like 3 o'clock.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I'll get at you later.
All right. See you guys.
See you, man. All right. Now we got background music. I forgot to put it on before. All right, Jennings Dunker. So I'm not a big fan. Like, he has requisite size, 33.5-inch arms. He's 6'6", 315. He has everything going for him. I don't like his tape. I really don't. And so I'm not gonna reach when I'm looking here again. I have to go by best available for me. I got my offensive line. I got a guard. I would love to get a left tackle or a right tackle, but I just don't know that that's going to happen at this point. There is a couple of guys later that I do like, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be immediate starters or anything either. But you have Austin Barber way down the list. He has the size, 6'6", 314. His arm length is just shy, but it might be workable. And he might be a candidate to kick inside too. So if you're thinking about, it's funny when I look up his arm length, my video is the first one to come up when the video I got of him. But his arms, I mean, right at 33 and an eighth, good wingspan, 81 and 3/8, good size, hand size. I liked Austin Barber. I think that there's a little upside to him. And again, we can get him a little bit later at 149. So that would probably be 128, 118, according to this draft. So I'll pass on the other tackle. So let's go back to the board. I like Keith Abney, but I think he's just a little bit too small. His size is there, but he plays small. I do like AJ Halsey. I mean, we do need a safety. And I do like Malachi Lawrence. This Gabe Yakas guy, I've heard nothing but bad things lately. That he might slip quite a bit in this draft. But he is that big end that you're looking for. If you're looking for a big end, which the Lions like. Joshua Josephs, I think he's going to slip quite a bit. So there's opportunity there. Derek Moore looks like he's projected to go 3-4 outside linebacker. Okay. All right. I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pass on the edge. Linebacker and safety were the most important to me. Obviously, we're filling needs, but we have to go best player available, right? We have to. We just have to. So if I go safety and linebacker and line them up side by side, we're at pick 50. Josiah Trotter's interesting, but he's just got terrible performance. Kyle Lewis I do like, but I don't have a pick to get him later. And Jake Golday, I think he's going to slide a little bit. It's just not projected very high. And Anthony Hill's another one that everyone's been talking about, but his run game is terrible. I'm not going to have a pick later on to get him, so that would be a significant reach. I'm going to go with the safety, AJ Halsey. We're just going to see what happens at 118. Oh, Austin Barber's gone. Where did he go? Bud Clark went at 113. Crownover was the next tackle that I liked. Where is Barber? Wait, is he still in here? Nope, he's still there. All right, so he's at 149. Well, we still have some opportunity here in the edge game. Kamara here, Mikhail Kamara out of Indiana. He's a little light at 6'1", 262. And he does play outside the tackle primary. Good production. I mean, not a ton of sacks last year, but 10 the year before. 49 hurries last year. I mean, he was getting to the quarterback, or at least, pushing the quarterback off his spot a little bit, but was not finishing. But Indiana's defense last year and what they did on their run, I feel like they kind of changed up what they've done in years past. Yeah, obviously it worked. A lot more zone scheme for them. I do like Cage Casey, though. I've done a little bit of work on him. His arm length, I believe, is going to be a problem. It's a little light, right around 32 3/4, 33 inches. I do like Sicario Davis as a corner. I think he's a bit long and he can't flip and run. But if we want a project, I mean, Tyreek Sapp is just a massive human. I mean, he's just built, but he needs a lot of work. He needs a lot of work. And I think we have two good guys right now, Peyton Turner and DJ Wanham. I think they're going to be just fine for us. So if we need to bring in someone that is going to be a project at defensive end, that may not be what you want right now. I think you need someone that can start. Now, Jelon Kilgore, he's been on my list for a while. There's a corner that I like. Zaki Wheatley, as you can see, he went early. He went at pick 96. But Kilgore, he has long arms for a corner. He's close to 33-inch arms for a corner. I think he measured in at like 32 and 3/4. It was great against the run. Plays down in the slot primary. I think he's going to be a great slot defender. So if you're looking to upgrade your slot, which the Lions will be, right now we got a bunch of 1-year rentals on this team. So if you need someone they can develop, and maybe, Rakestraw, you're pushing outside anyway. That's exactly where Dan said that they're going to put him. So if Rakestraw is the primary outside corner backup, assuming he's healthy and makes the squad, I could see Jelon Kilgore being a perfect future at that nickel position as a slot corner, and this wouldn't be a bad spot to get him. It really wouldn't. Yeah, I am a little bit worried about Cage Casey's arms. And he is a left tackle, but maybe he becomes a right. There's just not a lot of linebackers in this. Man, this Nadami Tucker, or however you pronounce his name, this guy's someone to watch. And I think that his arm length is going to be a problem as well. But he's someone to watch. And the Lions do have a pick at pick 128 and 157. And I don't know if he's been in on the visit yet. But his arms are super short. Like 31 and 3/8. So it's like, man, high upside everywhere. But just a problem with that arm length. Max Llewellyn is another one that is interesting production-wise. It's there. All right. I'm going to take my guy. I'm going to take Jelon Kilgore. So I got my O-line, I got my safety, I got my corner, which was way down my list. Defensive tackle is Capehart, and I don't have another pick till 157, so I'm going to have to reach. Capehart, see, the nice thing about Capehart is this guy's an absolute freak. He can work on the outside. I mean, he's a bit heavy to be like an end, but he can work the outside. I do like Zane Durant too, even though he's got terrible grades. Like, go watch the film. I think that he's someone that you could turn, outside and let him get loose. But again, I know everyone keeps telling me, forget the arm length, Will. Just base it on the film. But I try to do both. I try to be holistic with both. If you're looking for a right tackle, Brian Parker II, he's probably another good option. He's a little bit light at 305. I'm not saying that he can't add some weight, because he absolutely can, but how's that going to affect his footwork? He ran a 5.14. His arms are so close. He's right there at that sub 33. So depending on who's doing the measurements, he's an option, I think, for the Lions. I kind of like him. I thought the limited amount of film that I watched was pretty good. I still like Takario Davis, but I already grabbed a corner. I would run away from Bryce Bocher, even though he's an absolute animal. He's an inside guy. So if you're looking for someone to back up Jack. I think we already got that guy. You know, I think we already got that guy. All right, so from 128 to 157, you could probably get Barber at 157. But we'll roll the dice here. We're gonna take Parker, even though I don't think that that's a huge need. Capehart, oh, he's still there. Got to take him. Gotta take him. So now we're into 181, and the draft just falls apart. But I've got to stick to my guns, and what's most important to me right now is getting the best player available this late in the draft. I definitely would have taken Uar Bernard right here at 181. I don't even care. Absolutely would. And I would take a second defensive lineman or even a third defensive lineman if needed. Kalon Black, if you have not watched this guy run, he runs through brick walls. This is the next David Montgomery. I love Kalon Black. I think he's going to be phenomenal at the next level. I got my offensive linemen already. As you can see, I got Ola Vega Neone, AJ Halsey, Jalon Kilgore, the tackle, Brian Parker, another defensive lineman, DeMonte Capehart. Needed an edge, but then again, it could be another draft where we just don't get an edge. Really need a linebacker. It's a very thin draft for linebacker. So sometimes you just got to roll with the punches. Do the best you can with what you got. They give you lemons, make lemonade, man. It's time to make lemonade. Kalon Black, welcome to Detroit. And last three picks here into the 200s. This is where I think you take some gambles. I absolutely would bring in Lorenzo Styles. I mean, just from a physicality standpoint, this is a guy that has high upside, especially in special teams. Now, he needs some work, but he has the physical tools, man. He has the bloodline. You know that he's going to put the work in, and I think that he'll be an absolute just freak out there on special teams. Still have one opportunity to get a defensive end. George Gums Jr., I've been watching for a while. I don't think I'm going to get a second crack at him at 213, but I'm going to see if Red Murdoch falls, and George Gum I take now. And let's see if... Nope, he's gone. Son of a biscuit. Murdoch win at 210. I would have taken Murdoch. I went with Gums instead. Harold Perkins is probably the next shot at a linebacker. He does have a little bit of some length issues, but I don't think that he has any football intelligence issues. He's an extremely smart football player. We're going to grab Perkins, and we're going to finish off with Peyton. And that's my draft. Let's see how we did. B- on how do you get a B- on Ola Vega Neone? Like what is PFS smoking? AJ Halsey was taken exactly where he was graded, and you get a C+. Why? I drafted AJ Halsey. They wanted me to take Gabe Yakus. Yeah, I don't think so. Okay, better need. Okay, so they go by needs. They don't go by best available. Jalon Kilgore got a C. Brian Parker, A-. DeMonte Capehart, B+. Kalon Black got a C. Gums, B+. Perkins, B+. And Cole Payton, C-. Overall, B- grade from PFF. I'm good with that. I'm absolutely good with that. But I think that AJ Halsey's more of a B. I think Kilgore's probably a C+. Kalon Black should probably be a C+. So you all can fry me later. But I think that was Oh, let's see. Looks like we got some memberships getting sent out. Looks like Robbie sent out a few memberships, man. Just now caught that. Appreciate it, buddy. We're going to do a bunch of giveaways here pretty soon, especially ahead of the draft. So anyway, that's it, man. That's the show for the day. So we kind of ran through. Well, we did run through what the Lions are kind of staring at right now from a roster perspective. Both Eric and I ended up with 49 players on the current roster that have a high likelihood of making the roster. And that's with putting Brian Branch on IR. Don't know where Kirby's going to end up in that situation. With the passing of the new IR rules, I do believe that does add some flexibility with how you draft and what you do with the players. Because if you do end up putting players on IR before the season starts, you can get them back by week 3. And, if Kirby ends up needing more time, then you could probably do that, right? I hope at this point there's no need for IR with Kirby. That last draft was purely based on BPA, a little mix of a need in there kind of towards the end. But with 49 players, both 23 on offense and defense, the biggest question of the day that I've been trying to get people to answer is, how many players do you honestly feel are going to make this roster? You have 9 draft picks, 7 of which are on day 3. How many players do you honestly feel can make this roster, or even special, or practice squad? Not many. There's just not many. When you have like 18 to 20 core players, it's going to be really hard to make this roster. And so getting 2 to 3 decent starters out of this draft, I think would be key. So without doing any trades, ending up with, in my opinion, the best guard in the draft, well, now Frazier and Mahogany either become trade bait or the best backups in the game. And that's kind of been my plan all year. Like, if those guys end up becoming backups, you're in a very good position. I can't say that you drafted 5th and 6th round guys to be starters either, right? It just kind of happened that way. And so being forced to start that early in their career and coming off of major injuries and, illness, I think that their career kind of got off off a bad foot, off on a bad foot. So both those players I think are good. I don't think they're great, but I think they're good. And I think they're great enough to keep on your in your backup rotation squad. AJ Halsey, I think, could start day 1. Jelon Kilgore, I think that he can end up pushing some players. His range, his ability to break up at the catch point is probably one of the best in the draft. He's just not talked about a lot. And I like those players. Don't talk about them. Brian Parker out of Duke. I think this player has a real shot of ending up in Detroit. I really believe that. And Devontae Capehart, look, if his mentals pass, right, like his conversations with coaches in his interviews, if he passes that part with flying colors, the talent's there. The way he plays football, the viciousness, the intent, the point of attack, it's there. And I think that he absolutely makes up what the Lions want in a defensive tackle. I'm not just saying this because, 2 months ago I wrote about him, or a month ago I wrote about him, and finding him just before the draft or just before the combine. I was very impressed. Very, very impressed with his work. Even though the Lions have multiple running backs on the roster right now, Kaylan Black, he reminds me a lot of David Montgomery. I would urge, go watch some of his film today. Even if you can just catch some highlights, go watch it, and you'll notice what I'm talking about. George Gums, again, just go watch Florida football, man. The guy was flying all over on the field. He had a great group of guys to run with, which can tend to level up your play, right? When you're working with a bunch of really good guys, your play is going to elevate. So who is he by himself? Excuse me, I had to yawn there. So that's what we don't know, right? We don't know who he is when he's isolated. We don't know who he is if he's on a bad football team. And the film, you can isolate a little bit of that. And I think that George Gums is unique. I think that he plays with a specific style that may be unique enough to where the Lions might take a late round shot on somebody like that when you're thinking about adding an edge that maybe you end up stashing on the practice squad. I don't see the 6th and 7th round picks sticking. I just don't. Not on the main roster. So I think we upgraded here. And Cole Payton, obviously that's a practice squad guy. But anyway, that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hype after the show. And then tomorrow at 3 p.m., don't forget to join us for the full offensive line breakdown. We're going to hear from the lead NFL scout at SIS what they believe about the offensive line and who they mock to the Detroit Lions and why. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, but we're going to find out tomorrow at 3 p.m. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.